Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for a podcast. It's almost agreement time, everybody. I got my brother-in-law coming. He's staying a couple nights with us for some family stuff going on, so he's going to sit in with us just for funs. Sam's in the room. AC's building a house or some shit like that. I don't know what Max is doing. He didn't give an excuse other than he's just not coming, so we'll go with what we got. We're going to have a good time with it. It's Almost Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out the Voter Guide 22. I'm starting to work on the November stuff. My main focus is figuring out these 4 ballot items, so we're going to start talking about those a little bit tonight. And I'm trying to get Massey or Manis or somebody who was involved in setting them up to come in and explain them specifically for us. But we'll keep working on that between then and now. But for now, it's almost agreement time. We're going to dance a little bit, and then we're going to chat. All right, so I got my brother-in-law, Sean, in here. He's going to give us a quick update of the Hamilton County political scene.
I have no clue.
I could get my buddy Todd Fromeyer. He's actually kind of a big deal. He used to live here, just down the street, actually, and he's up there. He's the chair of the party now, and he ran for office this year. I'm sure you saw Fromeyer signs out on the street as you were going about your daily business. I need to ask, did you vote? I don't know when that Hamilton County might have a different election schedule, so I'm not sure.
I mean, I felt like moving to Hamilton County was more just like an in-between, you know? Like, I didn't really feel
if you're there on election
connected
day,
there, you know?
If you're there on election day, you need to vote. That's just how it works.
I mean, yeah, but I didn't... I mean, it's nice, but, like, I don't know.
Okay, no worries.
It didn't feel like home.
That's fine. I just thought it was like, it just kind of clicked as we were doing the intro. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Todd's in Hamilton County now, and that's where this goes.
But I mean, looking to move in Knox County, like, I mean, I might get a little bit more into it, you know?
Well, you won't have a choice because you're my brother-in-law. You'll see me more often if you live just around the street. So.
Yep.
And your sister's relentless about it. Not my wife, your other sister.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We picked her up to go to the little get-together on Monday that we were doing, and first thing is like, so what do you think about those elections? And Dee Dee's like, no. Just no. Because you don't get me started. Although we could start there if you want, because one of the things that we talked about last week, Sam, and having had Chris Davis in, bingo board everybody, and talking to him about it is, as well as the Compass guys kind of going further into the analytics of this election. Like, they were down big from the previous comparable or whatever, but it's all Republicans. Like, so Debbie Hensley, who ran for mayor, so, like, she was down like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 or so from the prior Democratic mayor candidate in the last election, where Jacobs was down like 20,000 from the prior. But that is just 20,000 people that didn't vote, right? Not 20,000 people that switched teams or any of that kind of stuff. And so it does kind of take this wind a little bit out of the Knox Dem sales of, you know, look at how much ground we made up. And it's like, well, if you count getting a bunch of Republicans not to vote as a win, which I'm sure they would, then you can count it the win. But that's not how they're pitching their win as far as some of the reports on Matt and the different Democrats. I mean, Cat Bike is a win. Winning a District 4 seat with the Democrats a win. That's new. But, you know, and then the District 3 commission race, having Stuart Hole come as close as he did to the Republican Oster is new, but same deal. If the Republicans that came out in the last version of the election had come out, Oster probably would have won that with significantly higher than she did.
Probably, yeah.
Like, that's the theory, at least. Because, I mean, I don't know. That's the weird thing about analytics, voting analytics to me, is because it's all on the assumption that the way you voted last time is the way you're voting this time. Like, that's the assumption in that kind of analyzation or whatever. But the other big part of it, too, is you had, in the comparable ballot, you had a heavily contested governor's race that included Randy Boyd in the governor's primary. Really? You had a heavily contested state senate races. You had heavily contested...
the last time, okay.
Right, the last time you did. Where this one, everything on the primary, both primaries, other than the Democratic's primary, the Democratic Party's primary for governor, everything else was uncontested. Republican or Democrat. There was no contested primaries outside of District 18 for me, District 7 in state Senate race against Briggs on the Republican side, and that was it for the Republican primaries. And then the Democratic primaries was only for the governor, including the lady that doesn't know the difference between a minute 30 and 90 seconds. I'm going to stick with that one. That's a funny thing, especially because Matt is the one that told me about it. Right. Also, Matt Shears mentioned everybody, bingo board, mark your squares. I don't know, so I pulled up, I got us prepped up with some clips from some old City Council Commission meetings that Tyler Givens at whatever, I can't remember the name of his YouTube channel.
What I've heard a lot from folks in the
community. This is Roberto speaking at this old City Council meeting we're talking. It's East Tennessee News Stories, which I think is one of the two channels that Tyler Givens, who ran for mayor, runs. But this is the video of them discussing the plan, where both Stephanie Welch, the city finance officer, and Randy Boyd clearly state the developer is paying for overruns. We'll listen to the clip.
This notion of, not wanting to make sure that the taxpayers aren't potentially on the hook for cost overruns for construction. And so we've got a specific model that, as I understand it, is being used here, which puts the developer at risk for construction cost overruns. So I want to just confirm with you that that is the case.
Yes, that is the case. That is, Mr. Boyd has agreed to be a developer, not just at risk, but he has agreed to take on any cost overruns related to this project.
We're not going to have anyone ever come back to this body and ask for more money for construction overruns.
That is correct.
When does it come back to us that we would end up being approving an overrun?
If it exceeds the approved amount of funding that you are authorizing. I mean, we can't go over the budget that has been authorized by council without coming back to council. And trust me, I do not want to come back to council to ask for more money. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make the point that the developer at risk, or the cost overruns being the responsibility of the developer, is why the contracts are framed this way. The responsibility for cost overruns is with the developer. Therefore, the developer needs to have the ability to manage the budget process and not move it into a political process, basically.
And I would like to restate for the record, because I have said before at multiple workshops, but Boyd Sports, we are going to guarantee any cost overrun. We will not come before you and ask you for any additional money. I will personally make sure that we cover any additional cost that happens.
Half of that is like a super well political play because it was accurate, but then the very last bit, he's like, "We will not come back to you and ask for money," and that's exactly what they did last week, and the commission or in the city council approved their portion of it. It's going to go again against. It was at commission last night in a work session, but that actual voting session will be next week, where commission will see the request. Because I guess that's one of the weird isms, because Randy's giving the loan or whatever, but. Like, I was feeling like I was crazy for a second, because I remember Welch in here, and I remember Mamontoff in here, and I remember other people reporting on what Randy Boyd said is that they will cover the overrun. And yet here we are. I guess he's theoretically covering the overrun with a loan, but he's getting paid back for his coverage.
So is it going to turn into a kind of reverse? He's like, I won't come back to you, but you guys may have to come back to me to ask for more of a loan.
Right. And so, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think the same argument is at play. Whether this is an $80 million stadium or $65 million stadium, whatever the difference is, it's the same argument. Do we want it here? Or do we want to pay for it or not? I don't think the base argument for the stadium has changed. I just think it's unfortunate that it's really just the timing fell apart. The timing fell apart. They didn't get started when they wanted to get started. They're already a year behind schedule, and with everything else going on the planet, everything's more expensive, and they couldn't plan for that. But I still think it's crazy. I'm curious. Like, I haven't seen it anywhere. Like, I've seen it stated that they've cut some of the plans back. Like we talked about it last week, where they're taking the water tower feature, and they're taking all the framing and whatever cost it was to get the water tower feature in. They've taken that off the plans. I'm curious how much how much the true overrun is already.
They don't know.
But I mean, or a close estimate of it, because it seems to me like they've cut millions of dollars out of the original plan to try to avoid this overrun, and are still $15 million short. So they may be $20-25 million short if they were going with the original plan. Which that gets a little more gross, just because it's like, how could you miss it? I understand the market's up and it's crazy, and building materials and stuff like that are getting expensive. I understand that. But how could you be that short with your estimate in the $25-30 million range?
I'm saying a small fraction of it, will be concrete. You can't get a pre-sale amount on it. You're like, hey,
right.
I'm going to be ordering a shit ton of concrete from you.
Right, and across the board over the last...
They're going to be like, okay, call me in a year and a half. I can give you a better price.
Right, and through the time period, construction materials cost is up 20%. Right.
But even a year and a half ago, when everyone was going crazy in the first summer of the pandemic, we were going to Lowe's and Home Depot left and right just to fix that. Costs are already going up then. I don't see how they didn't predict
exactly
a year and a half ago that, like, all right, this probably isn't going to get good for a little while.
Right. I guess,
don't know.
Right. The hope is that it gets bad, so it gets cheaper for a little bit, and then once the stadium's in, everything's gravy. I just think it's that to me is where I have a question in it. Like, I feel like I just can't imagine that even with the inflationary issues and the spiking costs of building materials and then labor problems and all that stuff combined, that it was still that far off. Because it sounds to me like this was a $100 million stadium from the get-go. Or at least it was an $80 million stadium that with the $85 million, and then with the raising costs and stuff like that, it's closer to 100 that they tried to sell, that they were going to do it for 74.
Like we talked about, they don't have even finalized plans yet.
Right.
I don't know how you get an estimated cost until you give an engineer or whoever an actual finalized set of plans.
I would think as a developer, you're pretty you know pretty well. You could guess pretty close.
Obviously, they can't.
Right. Or they didn't, or maybe not intentionally, but they weren't trying too hard to be too exact, because they knew $100 million price tag wasn't going to fly, so they had to try to go low.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's like, well, they've already inked the first set of paperwork, so they can't turn back now. So now we can start squeezing in the extra.
We're already halfway there. Do you want us to just leave half the stadium?
Yeah. What do you want us to do? And so it's kind of unfortunate, because even like what Welch was saying in that little clip is that if the way that contracts are written is so that the developer has control but also takes on risk if it's short.
Right.
Well, is in that contract too that there's guarantees that developer will finish the job? Like, okay, well, this is going way over what we expected to. We're on the hook for these costs. Let's just pack it up and go home. Can they quit halfway through because they go another $15-20 million over and nobody's going to put the money up?
How much would it cost to take it down?
I don't know. By definition, it's our property as the county or as the city county combined, and so it's our building, even though another person's building it with our money. It's a weird game. But yeah, I think in theory it's possible that they could just stop halfway through for one reason or another, go bankrupt, whatever, and we have a half-built stadium, and then city county, like the sports authority, takes control of it and goes
turn into a smaller municipal park.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. It's like the sports authority would take control of it, and then it's like, now what do we do with it? Which
dog park.
Yeah, we need another one. Gross. But so I don't know. I really like. I appreciate Tyler and whoever from his group that pulled those clips out and kind of edited them down from the 3 or 4 hour meeting that it was into a minute and a half there. Because I was really thinking I was afraid I was misremembering, because that original. That meeting on file was like from November 21. So we're getting on almost a full year ago that this meeting took place.
Oh.
Because it said, the clip was made and released a couple days ago, but it was from a video from back in November of last year. It's okay. Rowdy's on the show. He likes to be on the show. So anyway, I think, like I said, I thought it was going crazy. Like I was like, I swear to God, I heard it. Like I heard it with my own ears, in this room that developer would cover overruns. And so, anyway, shout out to Tyler for clearing that up. What else is going on, fellas? What's new? I got a bunch of stuff, but we can. I'll sprinkle mine in as they come.
You got a bunch?
Yeah. How about the Utah forest fire one? That story you shared, that was crazy.
Oh.
I mean, I don't think it'd be like, if it's a big spider, I don't think a blowtorch is crazy.
That's fucking stupid.
Also, if you're out in the country in Utah, I'd say a handful of people own flamethrowers.
It's only worth it if the spider's gone.
Apparently, half of Utah grasslands are gone too because of it, but whatever.
Yeah, I didn't see how big the fire was. I don't know if I may have
I guess we
glossed
should
over that in the story.
I guess we should put some context in for Sean, who is unaware. Utah man accused of causing wildfire by burning a spider. So I don't know. Like, are we thinking he was on his porch and he lit it on fire and it ran off into the woods and it started the woods on fire? Like, I don't know how. Like, I want to see the video of this. Not that I want to see the spider tortured per se.
It was just around his house and he tried to burn it.
Was there like a nest of spiders and he threw a can of kerosene in it?
I don't know if it said it.
I have so many questions.
It just said it was a lighter. I think was all I read.
Yeah.
If it was on his curtain and he just used his big lighter and
then lit the curtain on fire, the house burnt down, and then the wood started on fire.
Oh, the curtain's on fire. I need to take it outside.
Yeah. I don't
throws it on a bush.
Yeah.
I have so many questions about how this whole thing transpired. Yeah. I mean, it's Utah in late summer. It's probably pretty tinderboxy, but
he and the cops both agreed that they didn't know what the hell he was thinking. He was like, I don't know what I was thinking. And the cops were like, yeah, we don't know what the hell he was thinking.
What could you possibly think? Because, I mean, to me, it makes more sense if it was a flamethrower or a torch. But
not to me.
To me, I think, because what was your response to, like I said, I was thinking blowtorch or flamethrower, and you said that's either sissy or sadistic. Yeah. I'll agree with the sissy part, but I think the sadistic part is the regular Bic lighter. Because that's up close and personal. You're eye to multiple eyes with the thing. With your Bic, because you're right there, but like with a torch, at least you got some distance. And this is a death mission where it's not a torture mission with a lighter.
It's fucking overkill.
I like the previous take. A shoe takes care of 90% of them. Why a lighter?
I mean, again, I don't agree that it was the most effective way to go about the solution that the man was seeking, but.
I mean,
I think the lighter is more sadistic than the flamethrower.
Like, I see this stick of dynamite, and if I saw a spider, I'd be tempted. Like, let's be honest.
Well, you're going to be sadly disappointed if you light that thing on fire.
Yeah.
That is actually hilarious. I've had that. How long have I had that thing? You remember when I wrote that in?
Your what?
The dynamite stick. It's on your microphone.
Oh,
it was over here. I've had it for a couple months, and it's been sitting right there, or some version of right there, with Baby Yoda for many moons. Which is kind of a focal point for the people that don't get to see the studio.
Baby Yoda with a stick of dynamite.
It's been there forever, and Chris Davis noticed it yesterday. Sean notices it now. Prior to this, nobody said word one about it.
Yeah. I've seen it, but I don't pay attention to it.
I'm just saying, I think it's funny, all this, everybody just didn't pay attention to it and didn't say anything about it, and then 2 episodes in a row now, the guest says, why is there a stick of dynamite right there?
It's red.
I mean, yeah.
Simple mind. I'm not saying that the previous guest has a simple mind. I'm saying that I have a simple mind, and that's just...
I mean, I would. He hates voters. It's hilarious. Sorry, Chris. Chris told me... He told me... Yeah, he was telling me that he listens to it on 1 1/4 or 1.5 speed, because he has a couple different podcasts he listens to. He's like, I listen to every show, but I have to... He's like, it's weird. He's like, you're talking really slow. I was like, no, I'm talking normal. He's like, no, but to me it's slow because I'm used to listening to you at 1 1/4 or 1.5. Because he's like, I listen to all my podcasts like that. And I was like, man, I've tried to do that. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I worked with a guy that would watch YouTube clips at 1.5 speed. Just sounded like chipmunks. I was like, how are you paying attention? What's going on? I guess you get used to it, but
I tried it today for a little bit just to do it. It's like I just can't especially when I'm driving around and it's passive noise. It's not I'm paying attention, but I'm not paying super tight attention. Yeah. I can't even pay soft attention to it. I have to focus on it to catch the words to understand what's going on. And so it's I need this at normal speed so I can actually hear it. Where if I was sitting down somewhere and crocheting maybe at 1.5, I'd be okay. But
yeah, if you're thinking, oh, I need to make this the next left, and then all of a sudden you missed a paragraph because it's going so fast.
Right, I missed a quarter of the episode all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who'd they say the killer was? Rewind.
But so Chris was fun yesterday. He's always good to have on the show. He's one of my top guests. I like to have him. I think he might actually be. I need to go back and count. I can't believe he didn't bring it up. I think he is now officially the most interviewed guest I've had ever. Oh. Matt might be close. He was tied with Lauren Ryder for a little bit, but I think that this last one puts him above Lauren. I'm trying to get Meg McMuffin on because I want to talk to her about her sheriff run. I think it's just a funny little joke that's because here's the reality of it. Like I've talked about this on the show before. Like there is a specifically small group of people. I'm thinking it's in the maybe 2,000 people range here in Knox County that are into the political scene. It's part of their being. They are political actors, players. They do parts. They run campaigns. They run for office. They help out with campaigns. They're party members, that kind of stuff. There's only I'm saying there's only 2,000 of them out there, but it's a small group, and a lot of people know each other. And so, as a spoof, apparently a couple years ago, Meg Muffin, being one of these people, says, "Write me in for sheriff," and so people started doing it. She got almost 50 votes for sheriff as a write-in. And to my knowledge, she didn't do anything this year asking for it. It's just now become just write Meg McMuffin in for sheriff. And so it's 3 elections in a row. She gets a handful of votes for sheriff, and it keeps going up every year or every election cycle. There's a couple of good ones. That was a good segment we did with the Compass one on all the different write-ins. Somebody wrote me in. We already talked about that. I think the funniest one to me was somebody wrote in on the mayor's race. Anybody but Glenn Jacobs. Huh. And it's yes, that would be Debbie. Go ahead and check the Debbie box. What are you doing? I understand you don't like Debbie either, but it's if your goal in life is anybody but Glenn Jacobs, you have a real option. You can check that box.
Anyone but.
There is specifically one anyone.
Was there 2 boxes?
Yeah.
I just jumped to the third, right in your own.
And it's I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and but there was a couple of different funny ones.
If I scratch his name out, does that make it go away?
There was a Jay Larson. That was another one. Somebody wrote in Jay Larson, or actually, I think it was anybody but Jay Larson, which nobody named Jay Larson, at least in Knox County. Yeah, and it was that race, and they wrote in on that race, anybody but Jay Larson. And it's well, Larson Jay won, so you got it.
I wonder if he put that down as one of his write-in options.
He's not a write-in candidate. It doesn't count. I should have asked Chris that, and I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that if Glenn Jacobs is running for mayor and he's on the ticket and you write Glenn Jacobs in, it doesn't count because he's not a write-in candidate. Huh. He is a candidate. You have to check his box. But that's a good question. I'll ask Chris. I'll follow up. I'll try to get the answer to that because that is an interesting possibility. If I'm an official candidate, and for whatever reason, a handful of people write me in, do those count for me?
You would think they would.
Yeah, because you would think that they go by intent.
You're not voting for multiple people. You're voting for,
and you
just didn't see their name,
right?
I don't. Right, Larson J. I don't think that's his name. I'm pretty sure it's Jay Larson.
You are an appropriately petitioned candidate. Yeah, I get it. Okay, so I got to shout out Samantha Singh. She's a listener. And she messaged me earlier she was listening to the Chris Davis show, and Chris and I talked about vouchers and stuff a little bit, and she brought up something very interesting that I think nobody's talking about the voucher bill. So Nashville and Memphis, these things are in place. It's happening. And so essentially, this is the application from esa.tnedu.gov. So there's the program eligibility worksheet, right? So there's eligibility requirements. I guess I should have framed this better for you guys so you can answer a question. Everybody talking about vouchers. It was presented as everybody who wants a voucher will get a voucher. I did not hear a lot of talk about the stipulations that the state already has on the voucher bill that's in place, and this is assuming that this voucher bill becomes a statewide bill because right now it's limited to the 2 districts. But when Gloria or Paz or Mayor Jacobs or Matt Shears or anybody else starts talking about vouchers, all the different school board candidates talking about vouchers, which I think is inappropriate, but whatever, that's an aside. I don't remember hearing anybody talking about the requirements and the eligibility that's a better way to say it, the eligibility requirements to get vouchers. It was always, I always took it, it always felt to me like it was, if Governor Lee and Hillsdale College and these assholes get this thing into place, these vouchers are going to be out there, everybody's going to take them, it's going to take a bunch of money out of the schools. That's how it felt like to me when I heard people talking about it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anything?
I mean, I don't think it was ever really mentioned.
Okay.
I didn't take it as anyone could sign up for it. I would assume that there was limitations to it, but yeah, you're right. No one really talked about
it's
eligibility requirements.
So the and again, this is voucher, not charter school conversation, because charter school is a different animal. But according to the eligibility requirements, a household of 2, 3, or 4, right? So a household of 2. So if it's a single mom or single dad and one kid, that household has to have less than $47,000 in annual income to be eligible. 47,606. We talked about it way long ago, and I don't remember the numbers. I remember we were stipulating on it, but I want to say, like, Catholic is like $12,000 a year, $10,000 a year, something like that. It's up there, right? And I still don't know how much the voucher is in the first place. But if you're on a $47,000 salary and you get a $6,000 voucher, can you afford that $4,000 a year to send your kid to private school?
Probably not.
And so that's what I find that again, since these eligibility requirements were part of the conversation, it's both sides do it. I'm not saying it's a left or right thing, but both sides not talking about this part makes a lot of the arguments wrong or short-sighted, at least. The idea that a voucher system in place statewide is going to take a bunch of kids out of the school system, therefore defunding the schools, seems unlikely by the requirements now that we see them. You know, a family of 4, my household would be $72,150 or less a year. I can't afford $10,000 on top of whatever the voucher is to get my 2 kids into private school on $72,000 a year. It's very unlikely. So it seems to me that it is very unlikely that a large swath of people that are eligible can still afford to use them, unless some new private schools come into the market that are much cheaper. And so, I don't know. I'm not trying to defend the voucher thing, but it doesn't sound as bad. It actually almost sounds worthless now that I'm understanding these eligibility requirements. Like, it's going to be a big push for families who want to go to send their kids to private school, even with a voucher.
I mean, you're comparing it to what we have, like 3 or 4 private schools in Knoxville.
Right. You think we're going to have a bunch more come in if vouchers come into the state?
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's what the Hillsdale guy was wanting to bring in. I think 100. Or
charter
was it back in with that charter schools?
But it's also like, this is one of the weird ones that still confuse you to be, because apparently Hillsdale's got 2 divisions. They have one division that's actually schools and the other division that's curriculum. And at least the Governor Lee's pitch is that we want to bring in 50 to 100 Hillsdale curriculum schools. And so, but it's still charter schools, which is a different animal. A charter school is a private school that gets directly funded by the state, not by a tuition program. So the charter schools, as I understand it, the way they're supposed to be set up is like Knox County Schools, like, hey, we're like 2 schools short. We don't have the capital to build another school. This company wants to come in and bring a charter school. We as the school board get to approve whether they exist or not in our school district. We're going to approve the school to come in, and the money that the state would be sending to the school district for those students will go to that school specifically for the number of kids that they take. Not an additional tuition on top, none of that other kind of stuff. It's literally just the state funds go directly to that school and not into the school system, because the school system approved them to be there to take some of the weight off the school system because they don't have it. That's the way I understand charter schools to be. I could be a little bit incorrect on that. But again, but I don't know. Like, it just seems to me like how many, you know, 2, 3, 4 member households are going to be able to afford the difference with a voucher coming in to send those kids to private school.
Yeah, maybe it was a bigger push to help middle income students go to private schools.
Right.
Who knows? I don't know.
But I mean, again, like what we talked about the other day, that Knox County's bigger. Knox County is right at that 72 for household incomes. I think if I remember correctly, county at large is like 72. City by itself is less. City by itself is like 56 or something like that. We were talking about it a couple weeks ago, which is backwards. Most municipalities are the other way. Usually the city is a higher number than a higher average than the county, but we have a lot of Knox County residents that go to Oak Ridge to work and shit like that.
True.
And or a lot of Knox County residents that go into the city to work, but they're county residents kind of shit. But so I don't know. Point being, I find that a very interesting specific that doesn't seem to be any part of the conversation. And I think it changes a lot about the conversation. Because again, like how many people are going to take that weight of the difference on? And therefore, how many people are going to vacate the school system? Because that's always the argument. If we bring vouchers in, it's going to defund our schools.
Oh, does it say somewhere in that the voucher is a solid
I haven't been able to
$7,000?
read through the entire thing. She sent it to me like an hour ago. And I was like, ooh, this is awesome.
Because maybe that voucher just gets you into a school. Maybe not necessarily any school of your choice, but most schools of your choosing, as long as you're accepted.
All right, so the specifics on the little graph is zoned in a Shelby or Metro Nashville public school, or a school in the Achievement School District (ASD). Household annual income for that previous year does not exceed twice the federal income eligibility for free lunch. Is a student who either attends a Tennessee public school last year for the full year or is eligible for their first year, being kindergarten. Each ESA funded is approximately $8,192 to pay for private school tuition or other approved educational expenses. There you go.
Oh.
So I'll try.
You'll have to try. Just
Catholic high school. Listed to be typed, everybody.
calendar. Football roster. Baseball roster.
All right, so the 2022-2023, according to Catholic's website, is $11,300. So it's a $3,000 difference or so, give or take.
12,700 with books and fees.
Yeah. So, I mean,
$500 textbook rental.
I think it's doable for families, but I don't think it's as gimme. And I think that as soon as a voucher came into Knox County, Catholic's rates would go up.
Possible.
I would assume. What's the other one? Web?
Yeah.
12,000 in
20.
12,000 in pre-K, 18 K through 5, 21,000 for 6 through 12. So Web's not picking up any more students if vouchers come in. And any Web students, any kids that are going to Web now aren't getting a $7,000, $8,000 discount from the state because they're not eligible to get the voucher.
Right.
So the one thing to us that we kind of, I remember that conversation, is that the vouchers sound like it's a discount for the people that can already afford it. Well, it doesn't look like that's the case because they're not eligible. What else have we got? What's the other one? So
CAK.
Okay. Looks like 15,000. So you're making about $70,000 a year, family of 4. You're going to pay $7,000 per kid per year on average between the 3 schools that we pulled up. So you're taking your $70,000 and dropping it to $55,000, $56,000 a year, and pulling your kids out of school with a voucher. I just don't see that as a big. I don't know. It's politics, I guess. That's the politics of it. Forget the details. Let's pounce on how we make this look as bad as possible. I don't know. I'm very. Again, thank you, Samantha, for sending this to me, because I think this is a very important detail that nobody has been talking about. And I think it makes a big difference in the conversation moving forward. Who cares if a school board rep is okay with the idea of vouchers? Not a lot of kids in Knox County schools are going to be eligible. Those that are can't afford the difference. It's not going to change much for Knox County schools if and when it comes on board. I just don't see it. It doesn't make sense.
As you've just admitted, you still don't know all the details, and yet you've already made a now informed opinion upon it.
I mean, unless it's a completely different bill when they go statewide, I don't think. What other details do I need to know?
Obviously, there's a lot more to it than we don't understand.
I guess. Like, what don't you? What are you missing? What do you feel like you don't understand?
I mean, this is honestly the first time I'm hearing of the voucher. I apologize for my ignorance.
No, it's quite all right, buddy. You're not. You are the masses, not the minority. I promise.
So, what is the voucher for? I assume it's for getting kids into schools and like paying for tuition.
Right. The idea of a voucher is that the state gives you a piece of paper with that's a certain amount of money, and you can take that to whatever school you want to take your kids into.
And what relation did it have to the free meals?
The guidelines that the state has put together is that if you're eligible for the voucher program if you make up to 2 times the federal free meal minimum.
Okay. So it sounds to me like they're just trying to push more middle class to upper class and trying to, I assume, grow the upper class?
I don't know if I'd put it that way, but it seems to me that there's a very narrow window of the... I don't think we've had this conversation about defining the middle, upper middle.
Right.
Because, I mean, hell, what did we figure out when we were looking it up the other day? Like, middle class is...
I mean...
Starts at like 120, didn't we look that up? Starts like 120 a year household income?
I was raised mainly a country boy, so any private school is like... I mean, I guess... from my perspective, has always been kind of upper class.
But I mean, generally speaking, because, well, the idea is that you pay your taxes, right? You pay your taxes,
right? And
the taxes go to pay for schools. Well, I don't send my kids to those schools. Why do I pay taxes for them? If I'm going to send my kid to a different school, why don't I get a kickback for how much taxes are taken on it? And so it's kind of a middle ground thing because the idea, like, you as an individual, no individual in the state of Tennessee, well, maybe some do on the higher income brackets, but give or take, most people don't pay $9,000 out of pocket pay enough in total taxes or whatever to $8,000 or $9,000 of it that is set aside for schools is out of your own pocket. But that's the whole point of the collective is that you without kids, you who are, a generation up and have grandkids, everybody chips into the pot and makes it a little cheaper for everybody. That's the idea. And so there's a couple different ways that I've seen vouchers done. One being a more direct estimate to how much you would have paid in taxes, where this one's more designed on how much the state allocates per student for public schools. So that $9,000 is about what the state spends, which that's fucking bullshit too. That's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, that seems
because the state doesn't spend that $8,000 on my kids in Knox County. That's a fact.
Right.
I want to say that my kids, when they were at Rocky Hill, at least Rocky Hill was like $5,800 a kid.
Yeah, the conditions where I was growing up, they were.
Hey, you're getting more, like, rural counties get more than they pay in taxes. Like, it's backwards. Or it's not backwards.
Really?
It's the bigger counties that have the higher populations and the bigger density of population, they pay more in taxes. They pay more in taxes than they get back for school stuff, as well as roads and other things. And the rural counties get the taxes that the bigger places pay. Which is, not that big a deal. But back to the voucher part of it, it's just,
right.
I'm not particularly happy with, I won't say they're terrible, but I'm not particularly happy with the way Knox County Schools is working and where they're going with it and that kind of stuff. And I would like the idea of exploring, but I sure as shit can't, like, even, I can't pay fucking $15,000 a year per kid. That ain't happening.
No way.
I'm not eligible for this thing. But even if I was, I'm still looking at paying an additional $5,000-$6,000 per kid.
So
to get them into private schools.
If you can't put them into private schools, are you able to utilize the money from the voucher for anything else?
No, it's just you just send your kids to regular school, and that voucher money goes to the school theoretically.
Well, I mean, like, could they not pay for any in-school surprises like field trips for the kid or
because that's already in there. I mean, that's already built into the county school system anyway. Like if you're on the list or if you're in the under threshold as a household income and stuff like that, there's already built-in systems where, Johnny's parents can't afford the field trip thing. There's a fund, whether it's the PTO directly inside the school or a countywide fund that that does that kind of stuff. That stuff's already there. So the idea of the voucher is that $8,000 stays with the student, for lack of a better way to say it. So if the student's in the school, whatever the school the student's in, gets the money to spend on the student. The parent choice part of it is only which school, not what the school's teaching, not what the schools are doing, not field trips, not books.
So even if it's a public school,
basically, I mean,
that's what I was kind of wondering if you could use that to go to another public school, use that for transportation.
I mean, that would be the Colorado school choice that Max talks about all the time. And I think that's another one of the misnomers at play in all this school argument is like the Republican school choice argument is vouchers, period. Where there's and then the left's, public schools are bust. Obviously it's public schools are bust, but there's a whole bunch of different options in the middle of it that involves some choice. Like the Colorado model, which is, I was talking to my sister about it a couple weeks ago when she's in town. Like her oldest, like Colorado's is expansive. Like you can go anywhere in the state. If it's a public school in the state, as long as you can get there, whatever, they don't care. They don't care as long as if you're a resident of the state and you want to drive 12 hours across the state to get your kid into that one school over there, sure, just fill out the paperwork. And they even have it so far as like her eldest went to. They're in Fort Collins. Loveland is the next town over, and I think it cross county line. I think it's a different county in the state. And they have a bus. They have like a hub bus system where it's like they have a bus that goes from Loveland to Fort Collins, but like just one stop. And so like all the different kids that live in Fort Collins that go to Loveland schools get filtered into this one place, get on a bus, go. And they have the one that goes the other way both times a day or whatever. And so there's an option where, because like my sister's a teacher in Fort Collins, and so like she's at school, so she can't drive to Loveland to pick him up or drop him off in the morning and get to where she needs to go for her school day. And so Colorado's got to the point where there's options where you have help with transportation. It's not as good as, the school your district for that picks your kid up on the corner and takes him to school and drops him off at the corner at the end of the day. But you at least have I don't have to drive the town over. I can just drive downtown, drop him off, go back to work. Good. So, but that's a whole range of school choice that's in the middle that's not part of the conversation. But like the Republicans are running on school choice. It's like, well, no, one specific subset of school choice being vouchers and more charter schools, but not including, I want to send my kids to Bearden even though I'm zoned for West. That's not a choice I get. And I think that's a fair one that they ought to open up. I mean, I think that's, if you're going to talk about choice.
There's a process to do that. I think you can put in, it's kind of like a transfer.
Unless I have an excuse, like a good reason for it.
Yeah, I think
I can't just do it because I want it. But I have to give an excuse. I mean, if I want to, I can just say the kids live with my mom. Hell, I could say my kids with your mom.
I mean, you could make up extenuating circumstances.
Right. But I mean, for me, at least, it'd be easier. You just say to live with my mom because my mom's house is district, so Bearden.
You should be like, she picks him up and takes him to school most days.
Right. Even though she's like twice as far away from Bearden High School as I am. Right here where we sit. But, it is what it is on that one. And we'll see. Like, there's I don't know if we have a new high school in the docket. They have a couple new schools. I have to go look at the capital plan for the school board because I know they have some new schools coming up. And every time a new one opens, they have to redraw lines and get it all settled down. So, because I know there's a new Farragut Elementary out towards Choteau that's supposed to be going in. Right. Take up a bunch of that population. Speaking of Choteau, did you follow that story at all? No. So, apparently, there was a town hall style meeting featuring Sheriff Tom Spangler and Mayor Glenn Jacobs that was scheduled at this barn.
Oh, I think you were telling me
out in Choteau, and it's supposed to be. It was really weird because like the flyer that was kind of floating around was a screenshot of the flyer that somebody started passing around on Facebook or whatever, and it was like prepared-mindedness individuals living in the Choteau area come here to talk about preparing for any possible disruptions, be a natural disaster or chaos or political unrest or something like that, which is a lot of really weird, a lot of like, kind of
Where was this?
This is Choteau. It's way down North Shore from here. It's where my brother's house is. Actually, I should call my brother about it. And so there's kind of two schools of thought on it. One is Choteau is a peninsula that goes out into the river. Like if there is a significant amount of flooding, there's only like one road that goes into Choteau proper. There's a lot of people that live down in there. Like so if that road gets flooded out, there's a lot of people that be stuck back there. So prepared-minded people that live back in there that, oh shit, we had one of those rainstorms that we get every couple of years around here, and there's some serious flooding. We're stuck in our houses. How do we get out of here? That'd be prepared-minded people. And so anyway, as it kind of rolls out, like different persons get wind of this, including my good friend Brian Cornelio, who then figures out who owns the barn, calls the barn owner, trying to figure out what's going on with it because he thinks it's Mayor Jacobs and his right-wing Nazi camp bullshittery or whatever. Among other people, not just him, a lot of other people. Brian says that he didn't threaten the guy, but other people did. The guy that owns the barn. The guy that owns the barn says, and according to Scott and Jesse, it's not an uncommon occurrence that anybody comes to him and says, "Hey, we want to use your barn for this event or whatever." He's like, "Sure, whatever." Like, so he's pretty open about it. But like apparently,
give me a couple grand. Like, okay, sure, whatever.
Well, but apparently he does it for free. If it's a community organization, if it's something that's like a community thing, it's not a for-profit event. He'll just let people use it. And so whomever came to him and said, "Hey, we got Mayor Jacobs and Sheriff Spanger coming out. We're doing kind of a town hall thing on preparedness. Can we use your place?" He said, "Sure." And so people figure out, like they go on KGIS and figure out who owns it and start calling them. And Jesse said one of the things that when he talked to the building or the barn owner about it, like somebody told him he's going to come burn some crosses in his yard, which seems backwards from what the accusation of the people that were going to be there are versus the people that don't like those people. But whatever. That was another weirdism. Like, you're going to host Nazis? I'm going to burn crosses in your yard.
I'll show you.
I'll show you what you were going to do anyway. I don't understand. Like, that was confusing too. But anyway, it's just like, it's this crazy ass story. So the guy that owns the barn's like, "Fuck it, I'm out." Calls the guys that are trying to put together.
Offering his cross burning services.
Maybe that's what
I'll show you how to burn one, man.
This is how you do it.
You're only
right.
going to do it right.
You got to wrap it in burlap.
Some crappy
burlap's got to be
plywood.
soaked in kerosene.
That plywood's going to be out and burned in 5 minutes. Ain't no one going to enjoy it.
That's right.
You can't roast a weenie on that.
I love you, man. That was a great take on that. That was perfect. But so anyway, so like the guy gets. I mean, basically, the community that took this flyer at interpreted face value shut this event down on a private guy who was just like, "Yeah, whatever, I don't care. People could use it for community stuff. The mayor's coming, the sheriff's coming. Sure, you can use it." I mean, not that I would host a bunch of people in my backyard, but if a guy comes to me and says, "Hey, we got this kind of thing. We want some civically minded people to get together to talk about some things. Got the mayor coming. Can we use your place?" Sure, absolutely. But so they scare this guy off from hosting the event, even though he had nothing to do with the event other than it was his property. And so now this event doesn't happen.
You hear that, Mayor? You want to get on the podcast? Just hit him up.
I've hit up his office. I'm working on him.
Shout out, Mayor.
Well, I call him out for his bad libertarianism, which I have decided that I'm going to start pulling back from using the moniker. I think it's a mistake I've made of using the moniker as I am a libertarian.
The moniker?
Yeah. I'm not a libertarian. Libertarians are some weird definitional thing that are it's too small a box, man.
You can't box me in, man.
You can't box me in like that, man. Well, but I mean, part of it's because of Mayor Jacobs, because he calls himself a libertarian and he's fucking not. And so the bullshit that people hate him for, that I don't like him for either, because it's not a libertarian ideal, they connect to libertarianism. And so when I say I'm a libertarian leaning person or whatever, they go, "Oh, you're like Mayor Jacobs." Fuck no, I'm not like Mayor Jacobs at all. Like, there are parts of Mayor Jacobs' policy and stances that I agree with, whether it's a libertarian thing or my personal views on it. So I'm just going to drop the libertarian moniker and just go, "No, I disagree with Mayor Jacobs on this thing, and I agree with Mayor Jacobs on that."
Welcome to politics.
I mean, it's just, it's.
I mean, same thing happens with Republican and
I agree.
Democrat Party.
I should have known better. It's in hindsight, it was a mistake on my part to embrace it. I still think the general philosophy is right, but I'm going to just discuss it on the general philosophy.
It's just labels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
But that label gets co-opted into bullshit, man. But I don't know. So, but anyways, that town hall thing is like, it was very fascinating to me, like the way this, because it all went down in like 4 days. Like apparently, like because like we don't even know.
Then gone.
We don't even know who put the original flyer up. we know who screenshotted and started sharing it around, but we don't know who put the original flyer up.
Was it even real to begin with? Is the question.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So, like, this whole thing happens, and so Jesse was saying it happened on a Friday afternoon, like after we did the podcast with him. So it happened on a Friday afternoon. You know, the mayor's office and the sheriff's office don't necessarily take, you know, phone calls on business-related items over the weekend unless it's something specifically going on or whatever. And so it's like, you know, they were trying to call around, but for the most part, it's like, hey, we're journalists. We respect people's like business hours, so we're not calling them on the weekend. And so by the time they got a hold of people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it was already dead. The guy that owns the building was already like, no, we're shutting this thing down. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so before we could even figure out, like, you know, because again, to me, like, it's like, okay, if worst case scenario, it was some like, you know, Jan 6 style people that live in Knox County that wanted to arm up and get ready for the political revolution or whatever the fuck it is that was kind of floated in some of the people's conversation about this thing. Even if it is those people, let them get together. Let us see who they are. Let's not let them run around in the shadows and pretend like they don't exist, because they still exist, and they're probably more pissed off now because you shut down their little party. But if we could just let it happen, we could be like, oh, okay, cool. I would have tried to go to that just to do some media stuff on it, pretend like whatever. I've sat in on media things that I don't belong in. I went to the Republican reorganization thing a couple of years ago because you know, I busted out my media pass and said, media, bitches. Not that means shit, but I did.
It out this morning.
Right. It's just it's a little clip art that I got on Word.
Looks fancy.
It's a picture of a platypus where my ID should be, but whatever.
This guy at Kinko's helped me laminate it too.
I went over to my mom's house and used her laminator. She's got those cool scissors that are like, what's it called? With the little, they're not straight scissors. They got shapes to them. So the edges got shapes. What's that called?
I know what you're talking about. The like really fat scissors that like have like,
yeah, some are like zigzags, some have like
spirals, and
some are like little
spirals.
arches.
Yeah. I love those.
Maybe
things.
like you know, a heart shaped hole punch in it.
You have a computer. Just look it up.
Yeah, we don't Al Gore if we don't have to. But so yeah, I don't know. That town hall thing was crazy. That's just fucking. I don't know. I'm curious if there's going to be any more that comes out about it, or it was just enough shut down to
I'd say probably
put it to bed. There's a actual voucher thing. That was the big one I want to talk about. Oh, the ballot items coming up. That was another one that I was looking at. We've talked about it a little bit before. Chris was telling me yesterday that it doesn't come out the official ballot item as far as
how it's going to
like
appear
how
on
it
the
is
ballots.
worded, because it has to be under 200 words or whatever. He'll get that in another week or so. And he said as soon as he gets it, he'll send me a copy. I'm still trying to get a hold of, or like I've talked to Manus's team about having Manus come in and talk about it. I haven't reached out to Massey. Maybe I'll reach out to Massey and see if she'll come in and be like, okay, because I know one of them's hers.
Okay.
I don't remember which one. One of them's hers, and that's the incapacitated governor rules.
Oh.
Not dead.
All right, but if he's
but unable to do the job.
Right. Not in surgery and technically, you know, unable to make a decision if need
Right.
be in that moment.
Right, which goes to the logic. I mean, and it really just puts on paper the logical that how we lasted as a state with that not part of the thing already. Right. And so it's always been the assumed.
Happened.
Right. It's always been the assumed. It's like, well, if it does happen, we'll all just whatever. Well, you know.
Something goes to the lieutenant governor.
Right. Right. Everything goes to like if Lee dies, yes. If Lee is, but I think in your case, in the case you're talking about, when it's known event, like when it's a planned event, like he's having surgery, that it's still does that too. It's a weird middle ground that this one covers. Like if he knows he's going into surgery, or if he knows there's certain things going on and it's planned, then it's already like, hey, for the next 48 hours, you're the boss.
Right.
And then when I get out of this, you have to give it back.
Here's my fancy pen.
Right. Yeah. Here's my signing pen. I ain't no Trump bitch. I don't use Sharpies for everything. I do personally, but that's that one.
A fountain pen. Don't spill.
So that's one of them. Right. That's the number 2 on the ballot. But I think I I think one of the things that I've learned in talking about it and looking back at the ones we've had before, when it's a constitutional amendment, the number one thing when you're reading it on the day of election, when you're reading these ballot items, is it's a yes or no question. Yes means we're changing the Constitution to whatever. No means leave the state constitution the way it is. So regardless of what the details are, it's always going to be yes, change the Constitution, no, leave it alone. Or in our case on the law director,
for a fact?
Chris agreed with me, but we're not 100%, but I'm pretty confident on it. We'll see. We'll test it when we get the wording out of this new one. Yeah. Maybe they're going to turn it around just to fuck with people, but looking back at the law director one that we went in depth on, it was yes, change the county charter to not elect the law director. No, leave it the way it is so we elect the law director. It didn't word it that way, but that's what it meant as it broke down. And so a lot of people voted yes, thinking, yes, I want to vote for law director, or no, I don't want to vote for law director, when the yes or no means the exact opposite of the rest of the sentence in that version of it.
Yeah.
And so I will verify that premise, but I am 99% certain that any ballot item is going to be yes, change the Constitution, no, leave it the way it is. And I think that's the same for the charter stuff, and then we see on local ballots as well.
Makes sense.
And so, that's, to me, is the number one thing that I've kind of distilled this down to. In the make it simple for me, please. That's the starting of the simplest way I can put the way ballot items work. But it's the right to work one is one. It's the incapacitated governor is two. It's something about taking slavery out of the Constitution is three. And I don't remember the details of 4. Number 4 is a resolution to propose amendment to Article 1, Section 33 of the Constitution of Tennessee to prohibit slavery and involuntary. Oh, so that's number 4. Sorry. 2. Right to work 2. There's only 3 listed here. I'm missing one. Right to work. Disabilities. Slavery. Okay, and then number 4 is Article 9, relative to disqualifications, whatever the fuck that means. The right to work one I heard a little bit about this week. I'm not happy with you, dog. You're really bothering me in the show.
He's just saying hello to all the listeners. He said, "Have a good day."
That's exactly what he didn't say. But something I was listening to something they were talking about the number 1 is something about kind of obligated union. Like if you get hired at a place that has a union, that upon hiring you're immediately a member of the union.
I don't know about that.
That's what they're trying to open it up to. That is something that the state doesn't allow currently. Where I think it's something in there where it's like you have a right to not be in the union but have the job. That's the right to work. Where they're trying to get it to, well, you can't work here unless you're in the union. Now, the union doesn't get to hire or fire you, but if you work there, you're in the union whether you want to be or not. I don't know.
Sounds weird, but I don't know that much about it.
Yeah, like that, again, let's see here. Senate Joint Resolution 648. Resolution to propose an amendment to Article 11 of the Constitution of Tennessee relative to the right to work, whereas the resolution is known as the Right to Work Amendment. Whereas protecting the right of Tennesseans to join or refuse to join a labor union or employee organization is a fundamental civil right, whereas the right to work has played a crucial role in Tennessee's thriving economy. Be it resolved by the state of the 111th General Assembly and the 112th for that matter, and the House concurs that a majority of all members of each House concurring is shown by the yeas and nays entered by the journals. It is unlawful for any person, corporation, association, or this state or its political subdivisions to deny or to attempt to deny employment to any person by reason of the person's membership in, affiliation with, resignation from, or refusal to join or affiliate with any labor union or employee organization. So yeah, it goes both ways. You can't not hire me because I'm in a union. Because if I'm an electrical union, if I'm in the United Brothers Electrical Workers Union, whatever it's called, right. IEBW, International Brother Work. Anyway, if I'm in that union and you run an electrician company and I come and ask for a job and you say, no, I'm not hiring you because you're in a union, That's against current state constitution. You can't not hire me because I'm in the union. But you also can't make me join the union upon being hired. So it works both ways, technically. So that's what it reads to me. It is unlawful for any person, corporation, association, or this state or its political subdivisions to deny or to attempt to deny employment to any person by reason of the person's membership in, affiliation with, resignation from, or refusal to join or affiliate with any labor union or employee organization. So if I'm in the union and I quit, you can't fire me from the job because I quit working for the union.
All right.
Or I quit affiliating with the union. Be it further resolved that the foregoing be referred to the 112th General Assembly, that this resolution proposed such amendment be published in accordance to Article 11, Section 3 of the Constitution says by posting such amendment on the official website of the Secretary of State.
Why are you reading all that garble?
I'm trying to see if there's anything else I need to do. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the Senate is directed to deliver a copy of this resolution to the Secretary of State.
Well, maybe
Signed by
we'll finish it.
Brandon McNally and Cameron Sexton. Signed June 17, 20. Again, that's the Senate reading of the first. Came back again in the 112, got passed again. So, I don't know. That's what I see in that. I don't know. Any thoughts?
No, not really.
Do you think I miss? Do you think I'm kind of getting the picture of what you read there?
You read all of it. No,
I didn't read all of it. I skimmed and I skipped a few words here and there. So you're wrong, sir. You know what? Let's talk about football, Dick. You want to be like that?
Well, let's do it. I can be just as quiet.
I don't know what else is going on. I'm perfectly happy to avoid
I
the
think
Trump
preseason
thing.
just started. I think I heard about one preseason game.
There's been a couple.
That's
The last weekend was the first full weekend where everybody had a game, and then like 2 weeks before that, there's the Hall of Fame game.
Did read an interesting story in the Tennessean. I think it was recently. It was like some kind of weird scrimmage between the Buccaneers and the Titans. I don't know if it was within the past year or two. They talked about that Brady didn't come, but then they had most. Maybe it was in the past. But I thought it was weird. I was like, I've never heard of pro teams kind of scrimmaging each other.
I've seen them do.
It was like a practice. Basically.
I've seen them do joint practices. That's a thing where they'll work together for a week.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
It's usually a team you're not scheduled to see. Because Titans are AFC South, and for your example, the Bucs are NFC South. It is possible that they don't play each other in the regular season. And so a lot of teams will do stuff where, especially with the team they're not going to see in the regular season, so they're not showing anything that they don't want a future opponent to show.
All right. They're getting to play against at least another team.
Right. They get to get a little bit of full speed in there, a little bit of that, they
don't know what's coming.
Right. It's a defense that hasn't been working with you all summer, so they don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what they're doing, so it gets you a little bit – it's like a half step into a more real world. I
just didn't realize that was a thing. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's not uncommon. I think most teams do something like that once a year, something like that. There was a Redskins and somebody one where there's a couple guys got in a fight. It's a big deal. It was two last summer before last. But Sam talking sports, people.
What tiny bit I know.
Something that might have happened, I don't remember exactly.
Tiny bit I give a shit about.
You want to talk about the trades and stuff, the off-season action going on in hockey? I've seen a bunch of contract signings recently. Different players getting.
Good. I know a little bit about that. Still not a whole bunch.
I don't know much of it. I just see and they pop up on my little thing. It's like, Preds signed this guy to a 3-year, $7.8 million deal or whatever.
I've been wanting to find. I haven't really tried hard to look it up, and I'm trying to. Want to know if there's a simple site or if it has to be listed somewhere as far as what each player's making. Because some of those said, the terms of the trade or whatever are not being disclosed at this time, at least.
Right.
I was more curious as the current players that we have, what their contract's at, if they're out in 2 years or whatever.
Huh, that's a good question.
Something that the owner's always having to look at. He's like, all right, 2 years from now, you have to look at re-signing this, or
right, or I can get him out of here, make cap room,
or looking for another defenseman or whatever.
Right. Can we get this guy out of here for a guy we can keep for 5 years and push this thing down the road and move this over here?
2 goalies. And I thought we were getting ready to bring one guy up from the AHL who played for us in the playoffs and did pretty well. I thought he was going to be a good backup for Saros, but we've hired some other guy, I guess, to come in and back up Saros for the season.
Oh, we'll see.
they only signed with like a 1 year.
I mean, hell, preseason for them starts here in a couple of weeks too, right? Regular season starts in October?
I think it's like late September, mid to late September.
It's like regular season starts in October, though, right?
I think so.
Somewhere like mid-late October.
Oh, which a couple of the guys are excited. I guess the Niederreiter, who was one of our recent signing from the Hurricanes, he and Yossi are both Swiss, and we're doing. I can't remember who we're playing, but we're actually going to do I guess they're calling it like I forget what the kind of series they were calling it, but basically we're playing games in other countries, so it's going to be played in Switzerland. So they were kind of excited.
Regular season games, they're going to do a stretch where
that's a preseason.
Oh,
game.
okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think that's not a bad move for NHL, especially because there's.
Well, I think the NFL's doing it. Didn't they do it a year or two ago? They played a game in like London.
Oh, they always do. They do 2 a year in London and 1 or 2 a year in Mexico City. Yeah. There's talks of doing a Berlin game. I don't think they've done a Berlin or France game. I guess Paris. But I mean, there's a NFL Europe. They have a league.
All right.
It's where old T. Martin went, but I don't know. It's not very good. It's weird. Like there was discussion, at least, before the Raiders went to Vegas, that the Raiders might go to Mexico City.
Really?
And it might be its home games in Mexico City for the Mexico City Raiders. And then there was other discussion about Jacksonville going to London full time.
That would be crazy.
It's pretty nuts. Mexico City's nuts in a different way. It's like Denver, except hot all the time.
And Canadian has their own football league where they have like 2 or 3 more players and they play 3 downs.
Right, and the goalposts are in the middle of the end zone instead of the front or the back.
Something like that.
It's a weird game. It's an interesting twist on the game. I'd still like to see this XFL just completely operate as a D league. I really wish they would. It's just a mess. Like I've watched it because it's going on right now. It's
just like right under the NFL.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like literally go out and be like competing with colleges for players. Like, hey, don't go to UT and play for free and maybe make a little bit of likeness money or whatever. Come play for us. You're not good enough to go to the NFL yet, but we can get you better and exposure and all the different stuff that you want to get to go pro, and you don't have to fuck with that school shit.
There's the USFL, I guess it's called.
Yeah, that one. That's one that plays now.
Right.
But it's such a bad it's not a bad. I watched a little bit of a game a couple weeks ago, and it's not bad football. It's just weird because it's like they're playing in the stadiums because they're renting the stadiums from the teams that play there anyway, and so it's like they're playing in Titan Stadium and there's like 20 people in the crowd. Like it's so bad. The turnout is terrible. We have better turnout for SC1 or whatever. Yeah. Our soccer team, I think our soccer team in its inaugural season had better turnout than some of these random ass.
No, some of the MLB games have been like that, super low turnout.
I wouldn't mind going to a baseball game. I haven't been to one in years.
I could skip it.
I wouldn't go out of my way. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to a Brewers Brave games with AC. That'd be fun just for the specific of I'm a Rays Brewers fan. He's a Rays Braves fan. They do play each other, usually one series there, one series here every year. Or one series in Atlanta every year.
Is it Rays?
Braves. Braves Brewers. So they usually play a series in Milwaukee, and they play because they're both National League teams. So they play a series in Milwaukee and a series in Atlanta every year. And at least for a while there, they were always like mid-May in Atlanta. That's always like the end of school. Too much stuff going on. It's like I can't skip out of town for a day or two.
Right.
For the last week of school and all this other shit going on. But no, we'll see.
I think I was reading that one guy that had his cell phone come out of his pocket. I think the league suspended him for one game.
He was on the field with his phone in his pocket?
Yeah. Apparently there was like all sorts of memes about it or whatever.
That's hilarious.
But apparently it was in like the 4th inning that it finally fell out. I think his excuse was he has, I think they said it was almost like an oven mitt, but it's like his sliding mitt, which I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of like a batting glove.
Yeah.
I guess it's like an extra padded mitt that you can put your hand down when you're sliding in
makes your hand a
super
little,
rough sand.
Makes your hand a little longer so you can get to the base a split second sooner and be safe. I don't know.
But I guess he keeps that in his back pocket too.
Oh, so he
whenever
thought
he was like, because everyone's like, how the hell were you sitting on the bench for 3 innings and not notice it was in your back pocket? Most people accepted it as it's just kind of
Who gives a shit?
Is
Is there a rule that he's not?
There's a rule against it. Yeah.
I mean, I agree that, but like, why would that rule need to exist? Like, unless he's sitting in the dugout placing bets on the game, but that's a whole separate problem.
I don't know. I don't know if they implemented it more with the whole different like kind of cheating scandals that were going on with people using weird high tech shit and putting little buzzers on their ankles.
Well, they've got. Whatever. That's the weirdest. Like of the new technology things, they like baseball is no longer using hand signals. The catcher and the pitcher have a conference system now. Like I don't like that they do it in the pro football either, but. Like, that one, I don't know, whatever. Neither makes sense.
Are they using like Morse code? Because you'd still have to talk to them. How does the batter not hear the catcher?
There's it's not Morse code, but it's like I think it's like one of those little like cuff things that they have, and it's got buttons. Huh. And they like press like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the pitcher has a thing in his hat or in his glove or something like that where you can hear the number.
Cut out the middleman, because isn't the catcher kind of getting the signs from like the third base coach too?
I don't fucking know. Like again, yeah. If you're gonna do it, go straight from the bench, or
right,
or is maybe the catcher's getting it called into his helmet, and then he's translating it into the wrist guard. Right. I don't know. I don't. I just think it's a weird thing.
Did you say slider or higher?
What did you say, Coach? But I get
what ball? A first ball.
Again, I said like it's just I don't know. Like that's like one of the things about that makes baseball special. I think is it hasn't functionally changed that much. They've changed the balls a little bit. They've changed the bats a little bit. Like the bats change every year. Gloves are this, that, and the other. But as far as like on the field, it is the same game as it was in the 20s. Well, I guess it is the 20s. It's been the same game for 100 and something years. Like nothing has really changed about it. It's.
If you could add one rule, like Futurama, whenever they like in the future they're playing that baseball game, and like what would you add to baseball?
I mean, they already added the one. The probably the best rule I think to baseball is the pitch clock. I think accelerating the time between pitches, and I would. That and the timeout, the batter timeout. I don't think a batter should be able to call timeout in the box. I think once you're in the box, you're in the box until the pitch comes. And then put the timer in for the pitcher, which they already have done. I don't like that whole, like, standing there for 10 seconds, the pitcher's taking too long. Timeout. Let me step out of the box, adjust my cup again, make sure my gloves are still strapped on like I just did 10 seconds ago. Okay, back in the box. I don't like that part. Like, and it's a time thing to me. It's like the game is slow, and that's fine. Like, I'm not mad at baseball's pace. It's what baseball is. But it's just so obnoxious when you've got 7 pitches and it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like one batter, 7 pitches, and it's like 10 minutes. It's like, this is fucking painful. Let's go. Let's move. I'm not asking it to be like rocket speed. Like, it doesn't have to be a pitch every 13 seconds. But take the timeouts out. And I mean, take a lot of the timeouts out in baseball. There's just too many. Like the pitcher steps off, restarts the thing. Like once you put your foot on the rubber, you're committed to a pitch. The batter cannot step out of the box. That's that. I think that with a pitch clock, I think would make baseball. It would just make it move, and it would make scoring higher, and people like higher scoring because you don't have the time to get all super mental and do all that shit. If I could clarify one set of baseball, that'd probably be it. I did see one weird one. Apparently, as a batter, if you swing through during a steal and your backswing touches the catcher, the runner is out. Period.
Really?
Yeah. So if you swing through and just do a normal swing through, but the catcher's jumping up, because that's what you do when you're throwing to second base to try to throw the guy out, as the catcher's jumping up, if your backswing comes around and hits the catcher, it is automatically the runner's out. I learned that one this week.
Could you, like, as a catcher, try to, like, ram your helmet so, like, you don't actually get
That's
hurt?
what I'm saying. You don't have to, right. Just make sure you jump up into the bat and the runner's out.
He got me.
Yeah.
New forbidden strategy.
It's like I get it at one level. It's like you don't want guys trying to swing in a way that they're hitting you don't want them putting effort into hitting the catcher to disrupt their ability to throw. But at the same time, it's like you're jumping into like the catcher.
I mean, at that point, the ball's already been hit.
Well, it's not been hit. They're swinging through because that's one of those things.
I see.
Right when you get into like higher level baseball, they tell the batter to swing and miss because they're going for the steal, because that swing and miss slows down the catcher a split second. And so it's like swing, but don't hit the ball, because if you hit it foul, then they know that he's stealing next time, or we're trying to steal him, or something like that. So it's literally coaching staff saying we're stealing, swing, but don't hit.
Mental game.
Right. And so in that intentional miss from the batter, if that intentional miss involves touching the catcher in your backswing, the runner's out.
I mean, I'm trying to picture, I don't see how often that would even happen anyway, unless you're doing a damn 360 after you spin.
Yeah.
How is your back continually going around in that same direction that you would then...
No, I mean, it makes sense to me because, like, okay, so I'm righty, right? And so the catcher would be here. And I swing through and I let this kind of motion go around. Like, not all the way around, but I can see it getting there.
I mean, you'd have to put your arm almost behind your back to get it facing where the catcher would be standing up again.
Well, no, because I think you're coming back and you're kind of swinging, because it's swinging around and you're kind of coming into the back of the catcher, not in the front. Like, as the catcher's stepping forward to throw, you're coming around behind him. This is why we need to do the show as a video, so we could stand up and do it. Picture it in your mind, people. A bunch of people who don't like baseball that much talking about
baseball. By the time
baseball.
the catcher has caught the ball and is standing up, you should have already swung through completely.
I hear you.
The pitcher's not going to stand up halfway through your swing. I mean, the catcher.
Some of them do. I mean, some of them will. They'll hop.
I guess
up.
You know, once they see
they'll hop up. They'll kind of be on their feet with their glove lowered, motion, whatever. I don't know.
Is there an instance of this happening in a game?
Yeah, there's a guy that pops up on my newsfeed every while. So John Boy, and he does a bunch of baseball stuff, and he's really funny, and so I like watching him, even though I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I do enjoy him, and he has the passion for the game that I wish I had. Like, he's a stats dork, and like, he loves going into these weird, like, here's a rule you don't see every day. And this is where I saw the video that he was doing on this one. He's like, you don't see this one very often, so let's break it down for you. And so he does these breakdowns. And so it was, I think it was this season. I don't know. He's got a gajillion videos. And they just pop in and out. And some of them are old videos. Some of them are recent videos of old games. But most of them are fairly recent, like this season kind of stuff. But he's neat. It's fun. He also has the wiffle ball. Have you watched these wiffle ball? This like new wiffle ball. No, it's crazy. Like the pitches that these guys can throw, they figured out how to throw with wiffle balls because they have the half open side or whatever. Right. Like these wicked curveballs, they're like 7-8 feet of like. They just drop in. It's funny to watch.
Like a frisbee.
Sort of, yeah. The amount of hook that they can get on these things is pretty crazy.
Jeez.
But like they say, if you can make it a contest, guys will figure out how to make it crazy.
I was umpiring softball years ago back in high school. I had a book that had all sorts of like weird plays in it that might happen just in case of odd things. Like you know, foul ball goes into, which umpires have like a pouch or whatever they keep their counter or, plate brush and shit like that in. But if the ball happens to like fall in there or different little odd plays.
Any part of the ump is considered the field, right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't like if you're like the second base, if you're the second base umpire and you get hit by a line drive, it's the same as if the ball hit the ground right there.
Right.
The ball didn't roll straight like it's supposed to; it got stopped by your body. But by rule, it's the field. I know some of those. So, like, if it hits the third base umpire who's in foul territory, if it hits him in the air, it's a foul ball. Yeah. I know some of that stuff. I don't remember. Like, it's crazy. It's like everything that's old, though. I mean, everything that's old, it gets piled on and piled on.
You see it happen sometimes where it's like guys running back to the track and tries to catch it and like bounces off his glove and goes over the fence.
Right.
That's still a,
double.
Yeah, double. Yeah, and field double, whatever they call it.
Ground rule.
Ground rule, yeah. Even though it wasn't going over, it's like, bounce off your glove and over.
That'd be a terrible day for the umpire to be hit in the face with a baseball and then yelled at by the fans because it didn't go the direction they wanted.
It would be a rough go. I think that's not something like I've ever had interest in. Like the idea, like it just doesn't sound like a good time. Nobody likes you.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody likes you. The winning team might like you a little bit, but even that, they don't like you that much. I do think it's weird.
You've got to earn their respect, basically, for most of them.
I do think it's odd, and I do think it's something in most sports do this, that there is no post-game with the refs.
Right.
Like, I think that's an oddism that I think could be fixed. I think it's odd that in football...
I think they need to sit down and have a press conference with them, too.
Maybe not a full press conference, but maybe like kind of a debrief style where, some of the questionable or some of the crazy, like if some crazy caller or replay or whatever comes back and it's a big deal, that there is some explanation nearer to the time than, like 2 or 3 days later, the commissioner of the sport will put out a statement on behalf of or whatever. It's kind of how it tends to go now. Like you get some of those crazy games end in some weird way and it's a weird call. I think there's some... I don't disagree with the idea of... Because, by rule, in most sports, the referees or umpires or whatever the title is of those people are out of the stadium before most of the fans are. Like, you see the game go final and they run off the field. And for the most part, they don't have locker rooms.
Right.
They get straight into a van or a bus and are driven somewhere off-site, like, automatically.
I'd say they've got some kind of dressing room they're in.
I think they do, but I think by rule they don't change like players do. They don't go take showers and clean up or anything. They just get out of there and go back to a hotel or whatever and clean up because they want them off-site as soon as possible, just in case some dumb fuck fan decides that they cost them the game or whatever and does something stupid.
Well, I'm assuming the MLB probably does something similar to what the NHL started doing, where they've got essentially the home office with NHLs in Toronto or whatever.
Right, everything goes to Toronto.
Right.
Baseball, everything goes to New York.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. There was another one of John Boy videos where something goes to replay. And it's a breakdown of one of these coaches or managers, just losing his shit on an umpire. And the umpire's like, take it up into New York. Like, that's one of the things that John Boy does that's funny. He lip reads, and he's pretty decent. Because it's really he's pretty decent at the lip reading, but it's funny. Just the way he does it, because they're yelling at each other. He's like, fuck you. But like the way he's like, his false yell is really funny. But so he's like, fuck you. That was a shitty call. And then it's the umpire's like, take it to New York, man. That was New York. That's not us. Fuck you. You're the fucking worst. New York did it, not me. You asked for a replay. We took the replay. It goes to New York. And so he goes back and forth. It's really funny the way he does his voices. But anyway, that's our sports section today, everybody. In weather, it's not as fucking hot. Jesus, it was a beautiful evening.
So nice.
Wonderful night afternoon, evening to be outside.
I was tempted to wash the car. I'm like, there's no sun out. It's nice and cool.
I did run through the car wash in the 4Runner. I was out running errands today.
Nice.
Spent 3 hours at the AT&T store.
Yeehaw.
It's good times. Stupid kids and their technology and wants and whatever.
Yeah, you made awesome spaghetti, and at the dinner table, Eli just comes over.
I like to cook.
He just says, you know how what happens to a finger in a garbage disposal?
That's half your fault. You know that, right?
I mean, yeah, but it was pleasing.
I mean, there's some I've said this on the show a few times. Like, there are a couple of creators that they like that I don't hate that they like. I don't know if that's one of them per se, but like they like Rober, and I think Rober's good as far as like he's smart and he teaches some good stuff and he does it in a fun way. I like Action Lab. I don't know if they've seen it yet. Action Lab is pretty fun. I like Mr. Beast. I think Mr. Beast is cool. His is more ridiculous shit, but I think Mr. Beast, if you're going to have a hero in content creation, I think if Mr. Beast is a model, then I'm good with it. Him and all his friends, both of them, all their friends, we're going to be YouTubers. Okay. Just be like Mr. Beast and I'm good. Because I mean, I can't. I don't know. I've seen Mr. Beast on a bunch of different. Like Mr. Beast is on what's that guy's name? Dude that fought Mayweather a while back.
Logan.
Yeah, one of the Paul brothers.
Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
One of the Paul brothers. He was on their podcast, and Mr. Beast sitting there talking to him, whatever. And Logan was like, "You're going to be the first YouTube billionaire." He's like, "No." He's like, "Dude, you make so much money off your videos." He's like, I don't have any money. It's like if I do a video that gets whatever million views and I get $100,000 for that video, $97,500 of that $100,000 goes into the next video I'm doing. It's like I have everything goes right back into it. And like he was on Rogan, said the same thing. He's like, I got a decent house because I had a shitty house that I was fine with, but all my shit got stolen because I lived in a shitty neighborhood and I had a lot of nice stuff in a shitty house. And so, he's like, I bought a Ferrari once and then I sold it. And now he's like drives a Camry or something like that.
He's just living in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, his whole, his definition, and I think that's the important distinction, is like his definition of success is not money in it. He can do the videos he wants. He can make the content that he wants. He can make his channel as big as he wants. Those are his wins. And honestly, as much as YouTube has its problems or whatever, the fact that YouTube can make that a possibility for him financially is amazing. He doesn't care. He just wants one more viewer than he had last time. He wants one more epic show, video, or whatever that he puts out. Or he wants one more ridiculous one, or one more, because he's got like 15 fucking channels at this point. But like each one, he wants another one to be he just wants another one and more people watching. That's all he wants. And maybe at someday he'll cash it out and he'll be like, you know what? I'm going to cut down production. I'm going to bank some money and I'm going to chill out. Who's that? Coming in from somewhere. Got a little wiggle.
The aliens.
Little microphone
They
wiggle.
know.
I think it was mine.
Cool. Got to replace some cables.
Yeah, I saw him playing poker on Mr. Beast.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, I've seen
I don't know if
that.
it was like a special thing where they had a bunch of YouTube stars, but they had them like mixed in with some pros, and I was like, that's Mr. Beast.
I saw one with Kevin Hart and
I think he's been playing poker for a while.
Kid Poker.
Daniel
Negreanu.
Negreanu.
Yeah. That was funny because Kevin Hart's just funny anyway. But there's one hand he gets in, and it was something stupid and ugly, and Kevin Hart committed to it, and he bluffed Negreanu out, and he's like, "I bluffed you, motherfucker!" Like just that way he gets really excited. He's like, "I bluffed Negreanu." And yeah, good times. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not. Some of it's dumb. I can't believe. Like I was really convinced that I liked enough music that I wasn't going to be annoyed by their choice of music. I was wrong.
Oh, your kids?
Yeah, this weird. I don't even know what to call it. I don't know what it is. Like,
is it hyperpop?
I don't know what it is. I mean, I can.
Yeah,
I can't play it because that's copyright issues. But
DMCA.
I can because we share our iTunes with the household, and so. Carano's Killer 4-Wheel, Still Waiting by Jazz Emu, Driver's License by Olivia. Some of this might be the wife too. I don't know. Dead Inside by I don't know a bunch of weird shapes, a backwards NH. After Party by Don Tolliver, Sigma Male Song, Rave, Back in Black by AC/DC. There's one. Minecraft music, video game music, Tetris music, Posh Gangstas, MTSG, Gorilla Tag by Willie G, Soulja Boy Tell 'Em. That might have been the missus. That's more of our late era. Aria Math, Secret Tunnel by CJ Music. Like I don't know what any of this shit is. Like. I'm sure. So I'm sure. I know that I've heard it around the house or whatever. But I just like I said, I did not think it was possible. Like I thought I was cool in music, and I'd be like, yeah. The only thing they could really do is get into like country, like new country. That I might struggle with. But outside that, I'll be okay.
Well, maybe you need to like sit down and like give it a listen for yourself.
Maybe there's going to just be sucky music, and I can be all right with that.
I mean, I think that. Any form of art has there's no like good or bad. There's nothing that can really determine if it's good or bad.
It is as subjective as things can be in the sense of objective, subjective conversation. Yes,
and like I mean, who knows? Like it may grow on you. You know, you may end up jamming with it. You know, like
it may.
You just have to give it a shot first.
It may not. I'm okay with that. I'm old and bitter and angry. Get off my lawn. Whatever the phrasing is that we like to use around here. It's all right. I'm curious. So, I mean, I'm excited about it. He's starting in band in middle school, and I'm curious how that's going to shape some changes because I think I got more into some of the classical stuff as I got into playing the classical stuff at school. Yeah.
What instruments are you looking at?
He's playing tuba.
Ooh, low brass. Let's go.
That's right.
Low brass gang.
Which I mean, I played I when I went to middle school, I started on tuba and I transitioned to percussion in high school. He's so weird though. Like I was so mad at it. Like I was kind of mad at him. To be honest, like we went and did the they do the whole thing in the last little bit of their 5th grade year where they're different teachers and different people are coming over from the middle schools talking about stuff. They do a day where they go to the middle school and they get to walk around and check the place out, do all that kind of crap. And in the middle school part, or when he was still in the elementary school part, he's like, yeah, I think I want to play tuba. I was like, okay, cool. And then we get an email, like you signed up in class, and whatever, and I got an email from the band director at the middle school, and he's like, hey, we're having like a band open house thing. Come down. We'll have different people here with different instruments, and you can come and you can kind of play around and poke around at the different instruments, and what you think you might have chosen, but you can try some other stuff, and if it kind of feels like that's something you want to do, we can shift over there. And go, get you a chance to actually touch and feel and use the instruments before you make the official decision. So we go and we do it, and he tries some woodwinds. He goes through all the brass, tries trumpet, can't get his tight enough to blow a trumpet very well. We go and do the percussion guy and whatever, and I was like, I don't know, what do you want to do, man? What are you thinking? And it's like, I was a big percussion guy or whatever, and the band director was a percussionist. That's his core instrument or whatever. And so I was talking to the band director a little bit. I was like, one of the things when I was in high school, there was a problem is everybody in the percussion section was a drummer. We had no percussionists. Nobody was any good on any of the keyboards in percussion, and that was just not something that anybody had spent any focus on. He's like, no, man, I get it. If he gets into percussion, he's spending half and half. And so kid's like, I don't know, I'm kind of between tuba and percussion. It's like, band directors obviously doesn't want percussionists because he's got too many. Drums are cool. Yeah. Too many of those kids. And so he's like, well, we don't have a lot of good low brass guys, so I'd prefer you to be in low brass or whatever. He's like, okay, let's do it. And then a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about it, and he's like, I don't know, I kind of want to do percussion. It's like, well, we sat there and talked about it, and you said tuba. He's like, it was because the band director said he needs low brass. I was like, well, yeah, it's good what the band director needs, but if you don't want to play it, you don't have to play it.
I mean, yeah.
So go play. If you want to do percussion. You're not going to... knowing the way he and I relate in let's do a thing, let's work on a project kind of thing, he'd probably burn out on percussion pretty quick just because, hey, man, we got to practice the keyboards.
Right. Yeah.
I know you want to practice keyboards.
And you got to learn bass clef and treble clef.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit more to it in that sense, but that's the hard part about that. That is the true hard part of percussion is a group of instruments.
But being on the drum line, yeah,
I know. I mean, you don't have to tell me twice. But low brass gang. I'm a band. I'm the most dedicated band dorkness. Band created this person.
Yeah.
So if you don't like me, it's band's fault. If you like me, it's band's fault. Met that guy in band, sort of. Yeah. We hung out in band. Yeah, but we were in band together, and that kind of gave us the shtick. Met my wife in band. Plenty more than that. I don't know. Band's the best thing. Band, either directly or indirectly, is the best thing that ever happened.
Oh yeah, it's almost the core of my discipline.
And so, I'm excited that he's excited about it. I hope that he enjoys it. We'll see. It's not one that I'm going to hold him too hard because I want to be careful that it's not me going do band because I like band. I don't want to be that parent.
Right.
I know friends' parents. I know kids that are his friends whose parents are like, you're playing baseball, you're doing this, you're doing that, and it's like, man, I feel bad for the kid. It's like they like it. It's not that they don't like it, but it's like there's a point where there's a work fun line that gets crossed. That I see it get crossed. It's like this one kid's like baseball, either actual baseball practice or some clinic or a training session or whatever every fucking day of the week. And it's like, God, man, when do you do nothing? He's like, no, I don't know. Games on Saturday. We got a little bit of downtime on Sunday, I guess, but it's like Monday practice, Tuesdays hitting clinic, Wednesday practice, Thursdays, fielding and throwing clinic, and then Fridays practice, Saturdays are game days, Sundays off. Repeat. And then it's like season's over, then it's clinic, special team tournament somewhere.
All right, traveling teams.
Right.
Motivated passion.
Right. And it's like and it's interesting because going back to what we were talking about earlier in baseball and sports in general, when you get into pro sports now, it's different. And it's different not just because the technology changes, and that's not different just in the normal progression. You have kids in every sport that you've got a rookie in hockey who, as a rookie in hockey, has played longer played hockey longer as a 20-year-old than like some of the greatest of all time played when they were in their 30s. Like you have kids that were playing hockey from like organized, disciplined hockey from like 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they're 18, 19, and they're getting drafted in the pros and stuff like that, and they've got 14, 15 years of organized, disciplined hockey experience. Where I don't know, I'd have to go back and reread the bio of Wayne Gretzky, but he talks about he was skating before he could walk well.
Yeah, you always hear that joke about Canadians; they could skate before they could walk.
But
some of them it was true.
But as far as like fully organized hockey, I think a lot of those guys from that generation didn't really start playing the game per se. They might have played pickup. They might have played, they might have gone and had stick and played around because they're greats. I don't think they were playing like
most of the pros have been playing since they were 5, 6 in leagues.
In that era, back in the Gretzky, Lemieux, those kind of guys.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Halls were playing from when they were 5-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
Okay, maybe hockey's a poor example. Because like Deion Sanders is a great story on it because he talks about how he was the sport jumper, he was the baseball, football guy. He didn't really start playing any sport per se until he was in middle school. And even then, he was like track, football, baseball, basketball. He played every sport. Where now you've got kids that are specialists in a specific sport from fucking kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem I'm kind of trying to say. It's like you lose a lot as a person. Maybe not as a baseball player. You might be the best. It might make you, but so the professional sport is starting to show that. Where you've got guys that have the experience as rookies and low-level players that have played more baseball than people that have been in the league longer than them at this point.
We talked about it on here, but pretty sure you and I have talked about it. There was a real interesting author that I like to listen to that kind of broke down. He looked at, I think he found like some minor league in Canada and looked at their hockey players and looked at their actual birth dates and found out that some of the better players were born in the earlier months of the year because that's when the eligibility was, when essentially they could start as young as they could and get into a team and start learning how to play. And that, that 5-6 month advantage on some of the other kids made a huge difference in their progression through the years.
Yeah, they were bigger than the other kids. They were bigger and faster than the other kids,
and new
and they were
little tactics.
There's a like, and it's in a lot of sports too. But I know it's in hockey was the one that the book was on.
Yeah,
but there's been some people that picked it up. I've heard people talk about it a lot. There's people that have picked it up, and it's like literally. For this sport, as far as the best of the best go, this is the window of birthdays that 90% of the best in the sport are born in because of the timing of cutoffs. Whether you're in, whether you're in the 5 and unders and you turn 6 the day after, or whether you're in the 5 or unders and you turn 6 the day before. And so it's that kind of shit.
I was thinking it was more that they were younger, so they actually got to start working on a team and start getting trained.
Maybe it's that way. Yeah, either way, right? Yeah, I think you're right. So it's like you're on a 5 and under because you turned 5 today,
right?
Where everybody else on the 5 and under has been 5 for a little bit, and so you're getting to pick up the knowledge of people that are a little bit better than you and have played a little bit longer than you, and then by the time they age out, or you all age out together, but everybody you're with is now 6, but some of them turn 7 the day after, and so you're playing with 7-year-olds as a 5-year-old plus 2 days. You just turned 5 plus 2 days. This other kid's just turned 7, but you're in the same grouping because of the way the timing works out. And so it makes better athletes in that way. But I don't remember. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I've heard about it, and I've heard people done some work on some of the other sports as well. And that depending on the sport and what the season the sport sits in, depends on what those months are, because the cutoff dates tend to be relative to the season start dates. It's interesting, I guess.
It's all statistics.
I mean, yeah, it is. But again, I think it's neat. I think it's cool. I think it sucks for my kids because if they decide in the next couple of years they want to be professional athletes, sorry, guys, it's too late.
Not necessarily.
I mean, we can do it. We can play, and we can try. And it's not. You're right. You're right. It doesn't necessarily exclude them, but it's like you're coming in behind.
Well, I mean,
and you got to put in the work, not equivalent to your friends and other players. If you want to get to that good, you have to put in the same amount of work that your friends are putting in, plus all the work they put in the prior years. Now, You got to squeeze all that in. You got to force that all through. You got to catch up. Because I've never actually said it. This is the baseball kid that I was talking about earlier. I joked about. It's like, because you got to think that if you're a kid that wants to be a professional athlete, you have to be the best on your team, whatever your team is, whatever age level you're at. If you're in high school and you want to play baseball, you have to be the best baseball player on your high school team to even have a chance at going pro. And then go to college and be the best player on your college team to even have a chance at going pro. And then you still might not go pro.
Yeah.
You know, especially in baseball. Baseball's so damn massive. But like in football as well, I mean, football's another one. You could be, if you get to college ball and you're the best on your team in college ball and it's at least a Division I school, you'll probably get drafted. But, you know.
You may not stick around very long.
Right. Right. Because even that, I mean, you could be the best on your team in pro ball and you could still be the 32nd best in the country. Yeah. You know. That's how good they are. And it's great. Like, I don't know. But soccer's still the one, like, soccer's the one to me that is so deceiving on TV on how athletic those guys are, how much space they cover, how quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I always tell, like, I can't remember what the game I was watching. It was raining. It was like German or Italian league game. Just happened to be on TV, and I was watching a little bit, and dude gets tackled and gets tripped up, and like he's running after it, gets tackled and tripped up. And he couldn't have slid less than like 15 yards. So I know the grass is wet, so it's a little bit slippery, so you're going a little further. But I cannot run fast enough on a soapy slip and slide to make it 15 yards. And this guy didn't even look like he was trying. He was just moving after the ball, gets tripped up and slides 15 yards. How fast was he going?
Right, that momentum.
Right. And it's in the 80-minute mark. He's been doing it for, 35 minutes straight. But after doing it for 45 minutes straight with a 15, 20-minute break, whatever halftime is, I mean, that's it. That's one of those that's like it just kind of hit me in a moment. I was like, holy shit, that is crazy.
I was running that fast in the rain.
Right. After 80 minutes of running around, doing all this, doing all that, and even to look at him at the time, like when you see him running, it's like, oh, he's just running.
Yeah, there's no...
Yeah.
The perspective is really hard in the way the soccer field is set up to really see the amount of ground they cover in the way they film it.
Because they're moving with the ball.
Right. Because the camera's chasing it around, and you don't see the guy that's a midfield, like a left midfielder, that the action's over here on the right, and that's where the camera is. You don't see that guy run the 60 yards in 10 seconds or whatever it is to catch up to the action and be part of the play.
Yeah, occasionally see when they kind of zoom out and you kind of see the form of everyone kind of moving.
I don't understand the stats. Like, I don't understand soccer well enough, I guess, is part of it, but I don't understand how you evaluate players. Like, you've got players that are top-tier players, like best in the world, make their national teams kind of players, and it's like, had 2 assists in the last 3 seasons with his pro league team and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, I get it on your easy, like your Ronaldos and stuff like that. It's easy. That guy scores a goal every time he touches the ball. Yeah, $1 give it to him. He's going to go score goals. I get that. But you have a defenseman. Like, how do you, like, I don't understand how, like, how you put real analysis on that player to make him worth what they pay these guys. I'm not saying it's not worth it and it's not true and that there aren't people that understand it, but, like, I have a hard time understanding that.
Yeah, people that break down and have video footage.
Yeah, no, I understand that it exists.
It's like, also
my brain can't rationalize it.
It's also kind of a negotiation between the player and the team. And
right, but
they still have some limited
is it even
power.
worth negotiating with you? But again, I'm not disagreeing with that part. You're right, but I'm just saying, just as far as like, it's just really hard. It's hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to.
I don't know the game well enough to see what it is. To say like how are you going to be I don't know. I don't know any defensemen in like Premier League or whatever. But like there are people out there that are a fan of that guy, and he's a defenseman. It's like on the stat sheet, and this is the American to me, I guess. It's like there's no goals, there's no assists. There's a few blocks.
Do you think they make like a budget for like, okay, we have this amount of money for this amount of players?
I don't know
if we spend more money on this player, we're not going to be able to have enough money.
I don't know how soccer does that. I don't know if they have a salary cap and stuff like football does, because like football has your total salary could be X this year. Like that's a rule inside of American football. Like, I don't know what it is per se, but the NFL
they have a salary cap. I think it's just whatever the team can spend on it. That's why you have like the bigger teams that are consistently getting better because they're the one of the
Right.
few
They
that
just
have
keep
the
buying
money.
the best players. And I think that's one of the things about soccer that's weird to me is just some of the terminology. Oh, they bought Ronaldo. That's a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't buy him. They bought his contract so that he plays for them.
Right.
Oh, he's on loan. You're loaning a person. Okay, this works. I get it. Like some of the terminology of it, it's language. It's cool. That's why English is fun.
The loan does get kind of weird. It's like, we're going to loan you to this team for a while. It's like, so you're not kicking me off the team. You're just making me go play for somebody else for a while.
Right. I don't understand that. I don't quite understand that either. Like, it's like, well,
sometimes it's let them like stay in form rather than benching them for a bunch of games. It's like, hey, we don't want you to stop playing.
Right, but I'd also be curious on the salary part of the conversation. So you own a team and I own a team. Again, just because Ronaldo's the name that I want to say, not that anybody would ever loan him out, but you loan me Ronaldo.
I think you loan him out for money.
Am I just going to pay Ronaldo's salary for the time period, or is it I'm paying you whatever you ask for, regardless of what his salary is? You know what I'm saying?
Sure, it's probably a negotiation where you can say, I will loan you this person for, may not be their actual value, but you may have to be like, all right, hey, he's worth $750,000. We'll loan him to you for $500,000.
Or it could be the other way.
Yeah.
Because he's worth $750,000, but you don't have anybody else right now that you can get for under 1.2.
Right. And he's
so
only
we'll give
playing
it to you for
half the time.
Right.
So where sometimes if they go down to a lower tier team or whatever, the next league down, it may give them a little more confidence or something.
Yeah. I like the sport. I like Ted Lasso. It's the best show on television. I'll say it again. I'm really pissed off that they have not announced their season 3 release. They have filmed it, but they have not stated when they're releasing it, and I'm getting a little frustrated because it's a kick-ass show. It's the best. We just rewatched we rewatched season 1 and 2 in like 2 weeks. It's good shit.
I've only seen bits and pieces.
It's great.
I haven't seen it at all.
And then Maya Rudolph has a new one that they just did.
Saw a preview for it.
Watched it. We watched the whole first season. It's pretty good. So the premise is basically she is Jeff Bezos' wife, ex-wife now.
Ah.
That is the entire premise of the show. Is that the first episode is she catches the Bezos type character having an affair, gets the divorce, settles for $87 billion, and goes from just being a person to being the third richest person on the planet because of the divorce. But it's a fun. I mean, it's in the same vein as Ted Lasso. It's a really fun kind of comedy. It kind of takes on a few issues here and there. Like the season finale is like there shouldn't be billionaires and that kind of thing, and so there's got some of the political stuff in it. But it's just kind of ridiculous. Like it's mostly like how ridiculously far people that are that wealthy are removed from reality, like normal people doing normal things.
I think I believe there's a website to try to spend like Bill Gates' income or net worth or whatever.
Right.
And it's almost impossible. Like buying like 10 Super Bowl stadiums and you still have like few $1 trillion. Like it's
no trillions. There's no trillionaires yet. Well, at least not in the US.
No, I'm sorry, billions. I'm sorry.
There may be some sheik somewhere that's got $1 trillion floating around. Maybe Putin. He might get there.
Yeah.
The only trillionaires. There's only a few trillionaire governments on the planet, and the U.S. is one of them. And we're barely. What was our budget last year? $4 trillion, something like that.
No idea.
It started at $4 trillion, ended at like $6 trillion. But I mean, I agree that there's some issues. I'm curious. I did have that pulled up to talk about it, to go back to policy stuff. Speaking of Hamilton County, our friend Todd from Hamilton County, Democratic Party, posted some of the posters or whatever you want to call it for the new Inflation Reduction Act or whatever that just got passed. I believe Biden signed it earlier today.
I think so.
It includes an excise tax on stock buybacks, discouraging big corporations from spending billions of dollars on giveaways for wealthy shareholders instead of investing that money in the workers and communities. Which I find an interesting thing, the whole stock buyback thing. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with the premise of a stock buyback. I do disagree with some of the ones that have happened in bailouts in the past. Like, that's some bullshit. If we bail you out and give you money to keep your company alive because we feel like you need to live, you shouldn't be able to buy your stock back with that money. That's fucking bullshit.
True.
All right. Now, the idea is that we make money, and one of the actions that we do with our income is buy our stock back. I don't necessarily see that as an issue. I don't necessarily disagree with a special tax for the category either. It doesn't say how much it is.
I think it's like 1%.
Yeah. And so I don't think it's a particular issue. And I mean, realistically, when you talk about enriching the shareholders instead of the workers, that tax is probably not going to discourage it strongly. I am more likely to buy my stock back to inflate the value of my stock and the shareholder stock and lose 1% of that buyback value than spend that same amount of money on R&D or something like that may or may not come back to me at all. But at least it brings a tax into it, I guess. The 15% corporate minimum tax, which I believe our good friend Kristen Sinema picked apart a few carve-outs on who that doesn't apply to, and Wall Street and the big financials.
I've seen a couple stories on that.
I mean, it's like,
oh, she got the bill, and
it is funny to me how
she got a lot of money from those people too.
I almost respect her ability to just be like, yeah, I was voted into office by these people over there. I don't fucking care about them. It's these guys over here, the Wall Street bankers and stuff like that. Those are the ones I work for. They said they don't want this in the bill. You need my vote to get the bill? Take it out. Or give me the carve out that I'm asking for, or you're not getting it. This has nothing to do with the people that voted me in. It's these people. I almost, you can't help but respect it at some point. It's like, she's not even trying to pretend or gloss it over or fucking bullshit about it. She's just like, nope.
It's from Nevada or Arizona?
I think it's Arizona. It's like, this is what you need to get my vote. And everybody and their brother knows it has nothing to do with my people. It has everything to do with the special interest financer people over here. Go. And she gets what she wants, and her financiers win, and the people of Arizona or whatever may or may not be better off for it. Who knows? But that's not who she's acting for. And she doesn't even pretend. It's almost impressive to me how little she even tries to cover it up. I think it's great. If you're gonna do it, just fucking do it.
Is she expecting to be a one-term senator?
I believe that it has been. It is a kind of open secret that she is not seeking re-election. Because she'll probably go get a job on some board on one of those financial companies that do whatever and make 3 times the salary that she makes as a senator or whatever. 15% corporate minimum tax. IRS will receive the necessary funding boost, which actually raises money by making sure that ultra-wealthy and big corporations can't get away with cheating on their taxes. Now, this is one that I've seen some different stuff on. I haven't dug into it, but 87,000 new IRS agents are supposed to be hired through this process.
Yeah, good. They're going to go after middle income people. That's what they all came on to do. If
the history of what the IRS has done is our indicator, then yes, low income people is who the IRS goes after. That's a fact. I'm not making it up.
Right.
It's a fact. Because it's easier for me to collect $100 from you because you're not going to fight it than it is to collect $1 billion from the guy that's going to fight back.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to collect as many $100 from as many people that aren't going to fight back than bother with the big fight.
They have armies of lawyers.
Right. And that doesn't mean that this isn't what they're trying to do with this one. But if we're going to look at the history of how the FBI goes after it, 80-something% of all IRS audits are on less than average annual income households.
Is that percentage of audits? Because I think that would equal out. There's more low, middle, and upper middle class people than there are the uber wealthy rich. So by percentage, yes, you're going to have more audits on those people because you have a sheer larger population of those people.
Maybe. Okay. Maybe. But if anyway, you might be right. I don't know. Like I said, I started it off with a caveat. I haven't dug deep into this, but it is a fact.
I haven't dug deep, but this is a fact.
No, the IRS, it is a fact that they collect more from lower income people than they do from higher income people when they audit. I don't know how it shakes down as far as the average versus the average of the demographics.
Yeah,
it could be that the demographic average is correct. It does match the demographic. I don't think it does, but it's possible. I don't know that fact. Allows Medicare to negotiate some prescription drug pricing. Okay.
That was one that I heard that got whittled down a whole bunch.
Yeah.
With some of the drug costs that ended up only getting applied to just Medicare. We're the only people that could negotiate, I think, prescription drug prices.
Yep, $35 out-of-pocket cap on insulin for people on Medicare.
Right. Yeah, that was another one that got whittled down to just Medicare recipients.
$2,000 a year annual cap out of pocket for Part D prescription drug costs for Medicare persons. Continue premium coverage for folks buying health insurance plans through ACA Marketplace. So I don't quite understand what that one is. It's a continuation of Obamacare, for lack of a better word, is what it's kind of implying. Continues premium savings for folks buying health insurance plans through the ACA Marketplace, saving nearly 13 million people an average of $800 a year on their premiums. And then the climate reduction portion of it roughly reduces emissions by roughly 40% by 2030. Includes $350 billion for environmental and climate justice provisions. Creates 1 million new jobs every year over the next 10 years. Provides historic levels of funding for clean energy, electric vehicles, and pollution reduction. Prevents thousands of premature deaths by improving the air we breathe. So
nice.
That's the Cliff Notes version. Yeah, I mean, most of that I don't have a big pushback against. Corporate minimum tax is dumb. You know how I feel about corporate taxes. You and I are just going to pay it. So McDonald's Corp takes on a 15% minimum tax. Well, our McBurgers prices go up semi-relatively. Maybe not perfectly relatively.
That may not be bad for America.
I don't disagree with that part. But, you know, I mean, Amazon takes on a 50% corporate tax. It's going to be nickels and dimes on everything, but it'll weasel its way in to the sale price of the product or the service that company provides. Now, I think part of it too is that 15% corporate minimum tax is over $1 billion or over a couple $1 billion annual sales. I believe the actual wording of it is on the largest companies. It wouldn't affect us. We don't sell enough to. I mean, we're not a corporation anyway, but not public released. But so there's some room there, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This goes to be like, I don't know how much of that, like, realistically, I don't know how much of that, you know, I'm not on Medicare. That'd be the only one really, you know, 40% reduction in climate issues in the future. Okay. But like, you know, and Max's obligation or argument of why he doesn't vote, like how much of that really changes your life? And I get that point. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with it. I'm just saying I get the point.
Right.
Like I don't see nothing on there changes my life. I may look at ACA for some marketplace options if I quit my day job and I'm looking for insurance. You know, the climate stuff has the potential to change my life in the future if we continue down the path. I would argue that there's a lot of the public is kind of pushing that direction with or without the government's help. And again, I've argued 1,000 times, if you want to spend $350 billion, build a handful of nuclear plants around, make electricity as cheap as you can fucking get it. But why are we so damned insistent on wind and solar when we have a very viable option that's not perfect, but neither is wind and solar? So why don't we attack the viable option that we have that gets all the other little check boxes off and make electricity so fucking cheap that it's not about incentivizing people to buy electric cars. It's like, why would I buy gas? I get electricity for like pennies.
Right.
Why would I spend $1 on a gallon of gas when I get electricity for pennies? I'm going to buy everything that's electric. Batteries everywhere.
I think it's just the scare. Like, I mean, the whole idea of nuclear, like...
I mean, I agree. I think similar to our voucher conversation of prior. People don't know the facts about it, don't know the actual details, how it actually works, how safe it is realistically, historically, how safe it is. Like I always make the joke. It's like, have you ever heard of a nuclear submarine, a U.S. Navy nuclear submarine, or battleship, or aircraft carrier having a meltdown? Now, to be fair, you wouldn't if we did. They wouldn't tell us if they did, but I'm pretty sure. You know, I'm gonna go on a limb. My brother didn't tell me anything classified, but as far as I know, and he worked on nukes and shit like that, so I'm pretty sure. You know, it's a viable thing. And again, my brother is an electrical engineer. He's not a nuclear engineer, but, you know, there's plenty of kids that go into the Navy that learn how to work this shit that can come out of the Navy and apply the knowledge they learned in the Navy on working on nuclear subs or whatever. You know, it's a bunch of small little nuclear power plants around the country.
That's a very small reactor compared to even the small reactors that have been proposed as far as doing more small reactors.
I mean, I agree. Yes, it's not. I mean, it does. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to say whether it would almost make sense to go. Because I mean, what's a nuclear aircraft carrier? Really, like 5,000 people on that thing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus all the equipment, all the shit that they run on those things. You know, we'd have to put 100 of those in Knox County. That'd be a little bit much, but
each neighborhood gets their own little.
I mean, why not?
Nuclear facility.
Yo, dude, you want to go smoke some
I'd
weed
be curious.
behind the neighborhood
Right.
nuclear facility?
Let's go smoke a bowl, man. Where do you want to go? Let's go hide behind the little nuclear thing, man.
Those big towers, they can't see us.
Right, man. Get her there, and when we blow our smoke up, it's just going to mix in with the, whatever.
Yeah, they won't know.
So they wouldn't have cameras at a nuclear facility.
I don't know as far as the specifics of how to break it out, but I think there's certainly the technology and the knowledge inside of the system that we have. There are people that know how to work it, know how to build them, know how to maintain them, know how to work on the systems that work around them. My brother being an example of. There are plenty of those people.
What all fuels that some of them run off of now? 'Cause, I mean, essentially, it's a precious, not a precious metal, but it's a precious element. That don't believe we have uranium deposits in the U.S.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are Australia and
Russia.
I think Africa may have some.
I haven't heard anything new in Taiwan, speaking of.
Oh, we had some more lawmakers go over there, I think, this week.
I swear to God, they're trying. Like, I mean, am I crazy? Like, am I really crazy? Like, does it not feel a little bit like we're trying to pick a fight right now? Like, we can't just leave it well enough alone and not get into a nuclear standoff with a nuclear-powered country?
Yeah.
I mean, I get the sentiment, but you can't always just be told what to do either. I think you've yelled at me for that.
Probably. I don't doubt it, but I yell at you for shit all the time.
That's true.
But I don't know. I think that the idea would be that you would.
I think it would be better if they met in a more neutral location, but
I just don't see what the like. I mean, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole again, but I don't see the strategic benefit either militarily or economically with picking this fight right now. I don't disagree. Okay, fine. We need to stand up for these people. They deserve better or whatever. I don't disagree with the premise.
I think for decades we've had that relationship with Taiwan. And I mean, we still get lots of products that come from Taiwan.
I agree.
I think within their own, they probably have a greater GDP than many other countries that we do business with as their own kind of standalone territory of China.
Right.
I mean, even our official policy is pretty vague. It's like we recognize that Taiwan
if we're talking to Xi Jinping, yeah, of course it's part of China. If we're talking to the rest of the world, it's its own thing. Shh, don't say anything out loud.
Well, we've been put on a list.
We have?
I mean, a Chinese list. I'm pretty sure that if you go to China after you've spoken out about stuff, that they will...
I have no intent to go to China. I'm good.
I mean, yeah, me either, but, we're on a list.
Oh, jumping back in time a little bit, the Brittany Griner sentencing. Did you read any of that?
Not recent. I heard they appealed it.
I haven't heard. That's what I'm saying. I'm jumping back in time. I haven't heard anything new recently, but 9 years.
Yeah, she got sentenced to 9 years.
I like Rogan's take. I like Rogan anyway. But it's like he's like, there's people in California or Texas. He lives in Texas now. It's like there's people in Texas that have been in jail for 20 fucking years for weed. You don't care about them. Then why is this a big fucking deal? Because it's in Russia? Because she plays a game? What is it about her that makes it different than the guy that's been in jail here in town?
She's a famous women's basketball superstar.
But the point of, I'm
keeping to look up how tall she is. I keep seeing her in photos, and I'm like, is she like 7.5 feet tall?
Yeah. She's pretty tall.
Because like whoever's like walking with her, like she towers over them by at least 2 feet. I'm gonna say 7'3".
Nah, 6'8".
6'9".
Bah! I have no idea. I just threw that
so
number.
Close.
All right.
Anyway,
shoe size 17.
17. Is it a lady 17 or is it a men's 17?
Pretty sure that's a ladies.
What is that? What is that? What does that transfer to? What's a 17? What is a lady 17 in men's? Like a 20?
I think it goes up like 3 or 4 sizes. Not sure.
So like a 20 or so. Defense team appeals verdict.
No, it would be lower in men's size, I think. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. This is the quality of content we put out. We're discussing the difference in male and female shoe sizes.
That we don't know.
Which we don't know the truth or the answer to. But I don't know. Like I don't wish any harm to her. I wish she wasn't arrested for it. I wish it wasn't illegal. I don't really care what Russia law is. That's none of our business. But I just think I like Rogan's take on it in the sense that it's like, okay, yes, this is not I don't agree. I don't think this is a good thing. I don't want this to happen to this person. But we are so bent out of shape in this. There's how many hundreds of thousands, millions of people in America, in American prison systems, for essentially the same thing?
I doubt there's people serving 20 years for... I kept hearing, I think she was saying one vape cartridge, but I kept hearing other, like multiple vape cartridges that were found. So I don't know exactly how many she was found with, but I highly doubt there's people sitting in American prisons with 2 or 3 cartridges of which, I don't know.
Depends how many times, too. Like, if it's their third time, what's the 3 strikes rule? Like 25?
I don't think all states have that 3 strikes
right.
rule. But
I would say, like, throughout the United States, different.
They could have priors or co-charges, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. But that's the point. I mean, again, it's the broader sense of the point of the statement is not the specifics of 20 years or whatever, but there are a ton of people in this country that are spending a week in jail, a month in jail, years in jail for simple possession.
Right.
And to add insult to injury, they make it a Schedule 1 narcotic. Whenever, like, if you go to a addiction like help place and you say, "Hey, I'm here because I'm addicted to weed," they're gonna look at you funny. Like, I mean, they like, it's not that big of a thing.
We all saw Half Baked.
Yeah.
You ever suck dick for weed?
Like it's
no, it's. I mean, again, there are certainly people that have issues with it and that cannot use it very well, and have like they're if you are predisposed for schizophrenia, it's probably a bad idea,
right?
But on the whole, it's just again the moral being it seems like overkill in general, but it's this weird because it's a celebrity, because it's a professional athlete, because it's this thing, like. Sure, if you're in a legal state, okay, then I guess your argument kind of flies. But it's like, we're here in Tennessee, and it's like, there are people here that are in Knox County Pen for possession. Maybe not 9 years. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other, whatever. Maybe they go on. Maybe they get an additional for the solicitation and the whole transactionary part of the process too.
Yeah, if it's over a certain amount, I think it's an automatic, I guess, assumed intent to distribute as well.
I just like to buy in bulk, sir. I don't want to go out. I don't want to. I would if I'm going to have to do illegal transactions, I'd rather do one
big one
every once in a while, instead of one every week. It seems like a smart move on my part to buy in bulk. I don't know, but what you buy in bulk, you're assumed to sell.
That's where you hire a good lawyer to prove that point.
Right. So that's going to last me 3 years.
Do you want to see all my receipts from Costco and Sam's Club? Like, I buy in bulk. Everything.
I buy in bulk when I can, Bristles. Plus, it's a discount. There's all sorts of reasons to buy in bulk. Right. Not just because I'm selling stuff. But Sam's Club and Costco, well, Sam's Club at least is kind of would be a poor legal example because Sam's Club theoretically is supposed to be for resellers. That's what Sam's Club was designed for. Not that that's what most people use it for. But Sam's Club was built to be a small business supply store. You're not big enough to have accounts with big suppliers that do toilet paper, paper towels, that kind of shit. Chicken, whatever. This is a way for people that are in that small business category, food trucks.
Yeah.
You can't, a food truck especially because you can't take delivery. Where's your truck?
Right.
Anyway, last call. What you got? Mar-a-Lago raid,
Oh, Trump. What did they find?
We don't know yet. We don't know what they're looking for.
I heard,
we do know what they're looking for.
I don't know. I heard somebody saw some stupid headline and something about like a nuclear codes or something.
I've heard the conversation about that.
What is that about? Like, I didn't really look much into it because I was just.
I mean, essentially, the comment is that it's a piece of paper that's got the nuclear codes on it. So, because when he's president, he has to initiate the launch sequence and he has to put the code in.
But I doubt
the football that he carries with him.
And so the piece of paper that has the codes on it, he had in his safe in his office at home. which he should have left in the White House or whatever.
That hasn't been proven.
Right, which I don't know if that's true or not. And it's like, I mean, it'd be a fun thing. I don't disagree. It'd be like a fun thing to keep, a couple years down the road. 'Cause they should be. I mean, they change. You'd think they'd change him when you leave anyway.
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure.
It's like, here's just this stupid little archivey thing. It's a neat little thing to have because it's not valid. It's not functional.
The old nuclear codes.
It's classified documents that are supposed to go to the Library of Congress as. Like that was the premise, at least, of the raid, was that it was documents that are not his because he was president. They're supposed to be records that go into the Library of Congress as far as the official account of the presidency of the 45th Trump, whatever. These are supposed to go into that box. And some of it's classified stuff that will stay in that box until a certain year, and then it will go out and be open to the public through the Library of Congress and that kind of stuff. That's the stance, at least. That's what the Justice Department is saying. They're sticking to that. The Library of Congress knew they had it, knew he had them, and they were going back and forth, and the Trump lawyers team was talking to different people, and the argument is that the Trump team said, yeah, we'll get it to you eventually, and then gave them a couple of the documents, but not the whole stack. And so they're like, fine, we're going to come and get them.
They took 15 boxes in January.
That's the official story, though, is that they were asking for it, and the Trump team said, sure, and gave them some, but not all. They said, hey, you didn't give us all of it. And they're like, I don't think you gave you all of it. And it was a back and forth. And then it culminated in this. And so it's like, on the no president should be above the law, sure, absolutely. But as far as the new standard that's set, this is going to get kind of gross real fast, I think.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I mean, you didn't okay, so Trump got impeached the first time, then the second time. You had people running on, I'm going to impeach Biden. If Biden gets elected president, I'm going to impeach him. You have people running on, if I get elected, I'm going to impeach Trump if he's still there when I get there. Like, that was part of their campaign thing. And so now impeaching the president is part of the zeitgeist. It's normal now. Where we had a whole stretch there where, we had the Clinton scandal one that got there. But prior to that, you didn't have a lot of impeachment talk all the time. But now you have impeachment talk all the time. People run on impeachment. It's now become a norm in the system. And so now...
most people that wanted to impeach Biden was just retribution.
Sure.
Before he came into office, they're like, I'm just going to impeach him.
Right.
Once he comes
We're going to impeach him for being an old senile dude or whatever it is. They're just making shit up. I don't disagree with that point. But I'm just saying that, but it became a norm in conversation where it wasn't previously. You didn't have people running and saying, when I get into the Senate, I'm going to impeach, or when I get into the House, I'm going to start impeachment processes on Bush, which we should have. But, at the same time, you don't have Bush getting arrested for war crimes or anything after his presidency was over. Like, it is a norm that you don't go after a president after office for illegal activity, which you could go back many presidents and get it if you wanted to. And so that break of norm, which Trump is a break of norm in and of himself, don't get me wrong. But that break of norm is, what does that turn into down the road? So now Trump takes office if he doesn't get arrested after Biden. Trump goes and sticks his Justice Department onto Biden and Biden aides, and it becomes this whole process of arresting Biden after his presidency. And then Trump's now termed out, and whoever takes over after that starts looking into... There's plenty of stuff we can go into the past and regularly on presidents for it. And I think we should all the time. I think it should be normal. I think the president should be scared to break the law instead of doing it all the time like they do.
Right.
I think that would be nice. But moving forward in the political ramifications of the action, I mean, I joked when the leak thing came out on the Roe Wade thing about it's like somehow the Republicans are trying to lose. All accounts say that this midterm is the Republicans. They're going to win everything. Anything that's even questionable is going to go to the Republican side. If it's a blue district, it's going to stay blue. If it's a red district, it's going to stay red. But if it's somewhere in the middle, it's going to flip red. And then this Roe Wade thing comes out, which gets the Democrats out and excited, going after it. And now it's like, the Democrats might hold a couple of these seats. It might not flip as hard as everybody's predicting it's going to flip because everybody's activated by this Roe Wade decision. Poor political choice. Whether you believe in the thing or not doesn't matter, but it's a poor political choice to do it in the timing that they did it because it activated people to get out and get active, and it's helping Democrats with their chances of winning some of these midterms. And then now this turns around, and anybody who was even remotely Trumpy or Trump himself or any of the people that are in the Trump camp, any of the candidates that Trump is endorsing, are now further activated to get back out and vote. Like, it's like this, whether it was intentional or not, whether there was some grand scheme at play or not, politically speaking, this has activated the right to get out and vote, to get out and be active, to get out and be mad, and to be more Trumpy in the process too, instead of getting more moderate Republicans in the process. A lot of Trump candidates won their primaries, especially that Eric guy from Arizona or whatever. That was a fun one. There was 2 Erics.
Yeah.
Really.
And there was 3 there was 3 people in the primary. There's 2 Erics and some lady. And Trump tweeted out, or not tweeted out, but he put out on a press release or whatever saying he supported Eric. And both candidates immediately said, I got the Trump endorsement.
He's talking about me.
Yeah. And then Eric won. And so Trump's endorsed candidate won. And so, like, politically, like, the political ramifications of this, I think, is crazy. If there's more to it, if this was something to go find other stuff, whether it's Jan 6 related or whatever, if this was their way to get in because the legal set was there for the warrant and for the search, and this is their way to get it, and they knew it was there, and they're going to get it with it.
If they looked for that much, they would have gone to other residences.
I agree. That's
Mar-a-Lago.
the problem with it to me. It's like okay, yes, sure. If I took something out of the Library of Congress, I'd be in fucking jail in a heartbeat. And the president should be held to the same standard. I agree with that premise. But what that does politically is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And for Merrick Garland and the Justice Department at large to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, is fucking crazy. Like, again, I think the legal standard should be even. Me and the president should have the same legal standard in front of us, but that's not how it works.
I don't think it was done politically.
Well, fine. If it was done apolitically, it was stupid too. To think that it somehow wasn't going to have political ramifications is dumb. How do you not know that this is going to be a bombshell in all sorts of campaigns?
So I should have just not done it.
I don't think they should have done it.
Like I said,
again, if they're going to,
they should just ask them for
right. If they're going to do this, let's
hey,
go.
I know you've turned over some stuff.
Then all right, then
your lawyer signed a piece of paper saying that you've turned over everything.
If this is the game that we're going to go,
will you double check just one more time and pinky swear that you don't have anything else.
If this is the game that we're going to go after former presidents, then okay, let's do it. Let's go get Obama for killing Americans with drones. Let's go get Bush for starting a war on a lie. Let's go throw them in jail too. I'm good with it. And if you're not going to do all of that, then it can't not be seen as a political move. How do you not see that there's some political ramifications to this? If we're not saying, okay, you know what? We've been lackadaisical about it. We've been just kind of throwing it around and kind of looking the other way on presidents and their actions. But that stops today. President is a citizen just like everybody else. They break the law. We're going after them. Let's do it. But then you got to go all the way down. You can't just stop at the last one. If they're alive, go arrest them. Because I'm sure they all did. Somewhere, sometime. How do you not see that as political if that's not the case? I'm not saying the crime wasn't committed. I agree that the crime was committed by Trump. I agree 100% that the crime of taking documents he shouldn't have committed.
Okay, but because we won't bring war crimes charges against Obama and Bush and
if you're not
Daddy Bush,
I mean, I think the difference
Clinton and any president that ever ordered an airstrike that an innocent citizen was killed in.
I mean, that's kind of their job, and whenever they make mistakes, I think that's because I mean, isn't that the role of the president to be like the commanding chief of the military?
I agree, but on the Obama one specifically, on the drone strikes, it was a known American citizen. Instead of having them arrested and put on trial, and like any other American citizen should be for some crime committed, they were murdered on the street of Kabul or whatever the fuck it was. I'll go find the fucking story. Goddamn, doesn't matter.
You're fucking mad at me because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, but no, because your assumption is that I'm making shit up, or that or at least that I have a bad source on it. It doesn't matter. I mean, you'd agree at least that it was a clear lie that we were that of why we went into Iraq the second time. Everybody knew it at the time. The people that should have known better knew it at the time. Bush knew it at the time.
So he didn't have chemical weapons.
You did not have, what was it, yellow cake? That was the one, right? That was the big one. You had weapons of mass
Is
destruction.
yellow cake supposed to be nuclear material or something? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Weapons of mass destruction. Chemical weapons are not weapons of mass destruction. They're illegal in like the Geneva Convention or whatever.
I would consider them a weapon of mass destruction.
Okay, but I don't think by definition they count. I still don't think it mattered that we went in there. That we didn't go in there for any of that anyway. We went in there because he pissed off my daddy. That's an aside. I don't know why we're trying to justify the fact that probably every American president in our lifetime committed crimes while
Oh
president.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, so we should just let it go so the next president can do it too. It's like,
No, I agree.
You didn't do
No,
them. Well, no, you
exactly.
didn't do them either.
Exactly. We shouldn't let any of it go.
Okay.
So if we're going to go after the most recent previous president, then we need to go. If the stance is, you know what, we've been letting it go, and that needs to stop. It's getting ridiculous. You can't just start. You can't just take the one now and not go after the rest and not have it seen as political.
So we should go after Trump for war crimes too?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to kind of wrap my head around it, and I mean, it kind of brings up the question, like, how much of the president's role should be the commanding chief of a massive military with weapons of mass destruction? Like one.
That is the job. It's not a should or shouldn't be.
Right.
That is the job. Well, the problem here is that I mean, if you want to get into that part of it, the problem here is that the defined roles anymore in the different branches of government are all blurred.
Yeah.
Because realistically, by design, the president is supposed to be mostly foreign affairs and the commander in chief.
Right.
A president is not supposed to have a huge hand in domestic policy. He's supposed to support the legislative branches in domestic policy, but the president is supposed to be the foreign guy. He's supposed to be the guy that worries about what's going on in China and Ukraine and stuff like that, and then command the military at the same time.
You think he's supposed to be mostly foreign?
Yeah. I believe
I don't think so.
All right, we'll have to get the Constitution back out for that one too. The majority of the role is I think the majority of the role is supposed to be foreign affairs. I think they're by design. The presidency is not. They're not so. The way we do executive orders is out of line with the Constitution. The president is not supposed to legislate. That's because he's the executive branch.
Right.
As far as domestic affairs goes, it's supposed to be the president and the different cabinets of the office execute executive branch the legislative decisions. So if the legislature passes something, the FBI or the FDA or whatever it is that's underneath the executive branch is supposed to execute the things that the legislative branch has set into place. But they're not supposed to legislate because that's why we have a legislative branch. The laws are supposed to be created in the Capitol building. The White House is supposed to execute those laws and deal with foreign affairs.
I'm trying to remember what all goes into executive orders, because I think they can be challenged up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can...
Yeah, so I mean, it's essentially executive orders just says, because I said so, that's the idea. The president, I said so. And then it's arguable on whether or not the president has the authority to just say so and make it so.
Or whether the order is legal.
Right.
Has legal legislative standing, I guess.
Right. Does the president have the authority to say white people all need to be killed? We're going to kill all the white people. No, the president does not have the authority to say that.
Great example.
Then you fucking make one up on the spot.
Bread's a penny. I mean, come on. That was the best you could come up with?
I mean, yes, on the spot. That's where I go when I go on the spot. We're going to kill all white people. President executive order.
All right.
The Supreme Court's going to say, no, you can't do that, Mr. President. That is not legal in and of itself. You also don't have the authority to make that decision.
Right.
My bad example still proves the point of what we're trying to work on. I'm sorry it was a bad fucking example.
It just had to give you shit. I'm sorry.
God damn it. All right, last fucking call. We're running long.
I mean, I kind of feel like this is a weird thought that I've had under my rock. The people are supposed to have power, and you could argue that the voting is that power, but that doesn't really feel like much for the individual. You know what I mean? And so, is there something that we could possibly do to have some semblance of power?
No, we do, and voting is the power. It's that we have been trained and taught how to vote, who to vote for, or to not vote.
Right.
we don't have time, and I can go down the super rabbit hole about how much I hate the two-party system.
Bad call.
But that's part. I mean, that is part of it. We are trained that it is A or B.
Right.
They both suck.
Yeah.
Well, what do we do?
We need C, D,
I can't let A get in there because A is terrible, so I got to take B.
Yeah.
B's bad.
And so, like,
well, I got to take B because B's not as bad as terrible.
It doesn't feel like you're put in a position of power. It feels more like a position of like, ugh, you know?
Yeah, no, and it is, and it's like I think, and again, just to close off on a good Chris Davis reference, he was talking about his 8th grade civics teacher. He says, "You get, we are governed by the people that put forth the effort." That was the quote, or something. That's a paraphrase of the quote from his 8th grade teacher. We get you get the government you deserve. That's the other one. Like we have the government we deserve. We made this. We allowed this to happen, and we continue to allow this to happen. I mean, perfect fucking example is Mayor Jacobs is going to continue to be the mayor of Knox County with 30,000 votes. There are 500,000 people in this county. 30,000 people decided that. I'm sorry, 58,000 people total decided that, but 30,000-ish of them voted for him, 20,000 voted for somebody else.
That's kind of,
and so,
scary.
And so, and again, but again, it's like, when we're comfortable with the idea that it's not going to change much, it doesn't really matter, I don't really have power, can't really see any real change going on, then I don't vote.
Yeah,
and you can't blame people for not voting in that scenario, especially when you're staring down
two bad candidates,
right? It's like I got this or that.
Yeah,
and neither of them really fit anything that I'm after, and anybody else doesn't have a shot in fucking hell. So why bother?
Compulsory voting.
I mean, it's so un-American, but I don't disagree with it in premise. Like I would like it to be to feel compulsory and not be. Like, I have to do this. I need to do this. It's important that I do this. It makes a fucking difference that I do this. And I think that's the one that needs to be retrained. We need to rethink about it in the way that I have to do this because it's important.
Yeah.
Ranked choice voting's starting to get a little bit of a foothold. I think Alaska's doing it now. I think
ranked choice to start. More candidates. More candidates. I think, like I was telling Chris yesterday, I was like, I would like to at least just make it open primaries. I don't give a fuck about parties. I don't, especially I don't like paying for their parties. Like, do your own shit. Put your own candidate out there. I don't care. But you don't get to pick half the ballot.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Because, realistically, registered there's not real registered Republicans in the state of Tennessee, but people that are consistently, specifically, whatever registered voters in the state of Tennessee, or actually a better way to put it is people that are actually on paper, per affidavit, members of the Knox County Republican Party are, if they're 10,000, that would be a high estimate, I would say. And so those 10,000 people get to work and manipulate and do what they want to get their candidate on. 10,000 people get to pick what 500,000 people get to choose from. And so I get it. I get voter apathy 100%. And that's why I don't vote on contested races. Like, I'll go and do the whole ballot, and I will skip every single one that has one person, because I want it to be clear as day that I vote, but I didn't vote for you. Even though you got the seat, I didn't vote for you. And anybody else out there in the future that wants this seat, I'm a vote you could get. I'm not just going to vote for one person if that's all that's on it. Chris asked me if I was the only person on. If I run and I'm the only person on, you can vote for yourself. I was like, nah. It's like, I want it to be clear that I don't want that my vote matters, and if I only get to pick one person, then it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to do it.
That's a fair point.
All right, 2.5 hour show.
Yeehaw.
Thanks, bro. And bro.
Yeah. Thank you.
Almost agreement, everybody. Good show. Staring Sam down. I was trying to get Sam to do the outro, like I forgot or something like that. He just looked at me. He said, "Are you going to do it? You going to do it?" Almost agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Voter Guide 22 is still up. I have nothing on there that's of current value, but I'm going to work on it. I've been talking to Paz. I'll get Gloria back. I'm going to try to get Zachary and Amanda Collins and all those. I'm going to start working on getting those candidates in. And like I said, I'm going to try to get Massey or Manis to come in and help me understand these ballot items to make sure we understand what yes or no actually means. So keep a lookout for those and updates in that direction. Special thanks to my brother-in-law, Sean. He came in. He's helping out with some other stuff going on around the house. And since he was here, we had him sit in, come out, and have a good time. It was fun. But favorite podcast provider, tell your friends about us, that whole thing. Help us get the word out. Check out my other show, the Compass Knox podcast, Compass Points podcast for CompassKnox.com. If you want real in-depth, like quality coverage, people that know what the fuck they're talking about, check those guys out. Anyway, I'll see you. Bye, everybody.